Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Nightmare Hunter in America. Oh, I'm sorry, the Nightmare Hunter with Roger Noriega. DA, you got me going on that one. But, ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful, wonderful day, and I've got to change my name. I'm under another persona right now. I do apologize. I'm going to have to fix that right now. But joining me on this wonderful, glorious evening are two of the men in the genre, and not only in the genre, on the front line. And sure enough, there it is. DA, thank you. Thank you for getting it right. I am the Nightmare Hunter, ladies and gentlemen. I am that person. But joining me on this wonderful evening, we're expecting our guest to join us shortly, but we'll get to it. Today is May 10th, 2021. Yesterday was Mama's Day in the United States, and today in the Latin world is Mama's Day. So to everyone, back to back, we hope you've enjoyed the last 2 days. And now, who knows? We might get scared out of our mamas. Who knows? We'll see right now. But that's the man right there. He is the co-host of this program, D.A. Roberts, and our special co-host tonight, and who is becoming one of our regulars, if not. He's not a guest. He is no longer a guest, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, he's a part of the family. He is a host, if not a co-host. And it is the man who is on the front line protecting all of us from that which goes bump in the night. And I do not make a joke of it because that's a slogan. But ladies and gentlemen, our hero, the man that goes where angels fear to tread. And he is right there, Nick Valente. Good evening, Nick. How are you?
Good evening, Roger. Hey, DA.
Hey, Nick. How you doing, buddy?
Real good.
How you doing, DA?
I'm doing well.
I'm out here protecting everybody with Thor's hammer.
There you go.
And so it begins. And ladies and gentlemen, we've already got some likes. We're going to get to them right now. Forgive me. In the chat room, All Tower Media has a comment. You can support my page by sending stars, a digital gift that helps me earn money. Excellent. We have Thomas Whitney in the chat room. And as a matter of fact, we have several likes, as I mentioned. Thomas Whitney, Joshua Dalton, General, and we have Roger Peacock, Adam Shepard, and lo and behold, D.A., would you bring aboard the man of the hour?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to announce M.K. Davis. I am a huge fan of yours, sir. I've been following your Facebook page. The work you've done with the Patterson Gimlin film is amazing. I watched the video that you did on the Honey Island swamp monster when you found that shoe. That video, that was so awesome. I love that. I think that's my favorite documentary you've done.
Well, I thank you. I've had some revisions on that. Up until that time, I had not found anything on my own that would indicate that there was a monster in the swamp. But since then, I have.
Really?
Yeah. So the last 4 or 5 years, I have found tracks, and I have found numerous other things that indicate that there is. And then Dana Holyfield found the film that her grandfather took, and I did a pretty good examination of it, and it seems to pass muster. So I'm having to rethink some of the things there on Honey Island, since I made that documentary.
Yeah, the one you made where you guys found the shoe, to me, I thought, well, that just puts that to bed. That's all a hoax. But if you found new information, are you going to be doing a new documentary?
Well, I probably should.
I know I'll definitely watch it.
I found a big 3-toed print just like that. I took my wife to visit a friend at Ochsner's in New Orleans, and I dropped in on Honey Island unannounced. And I went off trail along a slough. So I know no one set this up. And in that swamp, they have clay underneath in pockets that absorbs a lot of water. And then when you get a dry crust on top, it sometimes will swell up and erupt through, and you'll have what I call a spit of clay, of wet clay, on otherwise dry ground. And that track was dead center of one of those spits, and it had 3 toes. And I looked at it, and I kind of thought to myself, I said, well, this can't be true. But it was true. And so I had to, and as we all do in life, I had to walk some things back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that no one else did that. They didn't know I was coming or anything.
Yeah.
So I began to drop in on Honey Island more often.
Mm-hmm.
And so in doing so, in the certain areas around there, at certain times of the year, you begin to find things that are kind of textbook Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I found I came in one time on the heels of some storms, and it had just stopped raining about 10 minutes prior to me arriving. So when I got on the trail, I found a freshly broken tree, or snapped off, and then the piece made into an X across that trail. And when I looked down in the broken part, there was no water. So I know that it had to have just been done right out ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kinds of things that you find like at Bluff Creek,
Yeah.
Textbook Bigfoot stuff. So when I saw her film, well, what I was able to do a frame by frame of that film, it too looked textbook Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
So monster, Bigfoot, or whatever,
some type of Bigfoot derivative.
Yeah, there's something in the swamp. I feel pretty sure. So I don't mind walking something back. We're in a business where it's just evidence is scanned anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to fail to give someone their due,
Exactly.
or fail to be right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of people do. Is people are so afraid of being wrong that they fail to be right. They something comes in front of them, and it's not exactly what they think it should be, so they just dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
And so three-toe track, you have to just, whatever's there on the earth, the print that you see, something made it.
Yeah.
And if it only has three toes, something must only have three toes. You're after crypto subjects, so no one knows for sure what they are anyway.
Exactly.
So,
if I may interrupt, ladies and gentlemen, we're off to a wonderful start already. We have MK Davis with us. We've done intros for everyone else, but Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, why don't you go ahead and if you would share with our audience who you are, where you're at, and kind of what it is that you do, sir, and what you've done.
Well, I kind of backed into this the cryptozoological pursuit. Actually, I was into astrophotography, which is taking space photographs through a telescope, and it required, at the time it was done with film,
mm-hmm.
and it required some techniques there for rescuing very faint objects, that they're on timed exposures and things like that. And when I first saw some really good prints from the Patterson film, it was so much better than anything I'd ever seen on television. And when I saw them, I said, well, somebody has filtered these images much the same as you would filter an astrophotograph, trying to boost the contrast and see more on it. And so I said, well, there must be a better version of this film somewhere, because all I've ever seen is fuzzy, grainy, dark versions of it that were shaky. And so I began an inquiry. I don't know what that was. It's in my phone. I began an inquiry into that as to where I could get frames that I could process in a way similar to the astrophotography I was doing. And I began to make contacts. I went to Oregon, and I spoke in Oregon, and I contacted some Canadians there who came across with a lot of really good frames. And my inquiry continues until today. I've worked with several different copies of the Patterson film. I've got the frames from Miss Patterson directly from her. I've got frames from John Green. I've got frames from other copies, that are out there, and so I've not only been able to process them and reconstruct them in a stabilized form, where you take the hand motion out, but whenever you get rid of some of the lensing defects, it boosts the sharpness considerably. And if you do that just 1%, you'll see on average about 10 new things. Mm-hmm. So imagine over the years, I've reprocessed the film as new methods become available. It's probably been 6 or 7% boosted and 60 or 70 new things. You see, when you have a threshold film like that, it's almost on the verge of being a good film, and then you're able to process it. Then it crosses that threshold, and it becomes a great film. And what you begin to see is what you see in everyday life when you go out across the street and you see people. You see biomechanics. You see muscles moving and scapulas, moving, and so those kinds of things are very, very difficult to duplicate in a suit. And I would venture to say in 1967, especially by these two people, impossible. So it has to be accepted as it is, and I think that there's been a cottage industry kind of come up around the Patterson film, both negative and positive. A lot of skeptics have cut their teeth on that film as well.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of false claims. And so I found out over the years as I've improved the film that I've been, even though I didn't set out to be this way, I've become sort of an advocate for it. It needs an advocate because it really got off on the wrong foot way back when in 1967, and so making those turnarounds for the film has been very important. The old arguments no longer apply, and people need to understand that.
Yeah.
Mr. Davis, what are your thoughts on the fellow that came forward years ago and said that he was paid $5,000 to wear a suit that was created for that film? Any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, you're talking about probably Bob Hieronymus. Is that? Yeah.
Right.
Bob Hieronymus is a neighbor of Bob Gimlin.
Right.
And they were childhood friends. And they were even in a movie together that was going to be produced by Roger Patterson before he took the film of the Bigfoot, the actual real Bigfoot. He was going to make a feature film, and he had written a script, and they were all going to be in it. I don't want to say for positive that this is it, but my guess is that if they wore a suit, it was for that feature film and not what you see in the Patterson film.
That makes more sense now, and it does clear a lot up because his friend and next door neighbor claimed that he went over to the house and he opened his trunk and he showed Mr. Gimlin's mother and I believe one of his kids the suit. And I mean, that created a big hubbub at the time. But you're correct in the fact that when you look at the film, and I mean, I've looked at the film myself and I've magnified it on a 65-inch screen, and I have some applications where I can really zoom in and clear it up. I saw muscle movement, and I don't think at the time that they had anything near that type of technology to show muscle movement. I don't even know if they have it now, to tell you the truth.
Not well.
No.
You know, it's what you see there is like I said, just what you see in life everywhere. Right. It's recognizable, and so that being the case, then that is ground zero for a pursuit to discover the species or the tribe, whatever it is. If it's a primitive human or if it's a Gigantopithecus, that needs to be sorted out. But you have to have a beginning point, and the beginning point is getting past do they exist?
I firmly believe they do.
Yeah. Well, that film seems to indicate that they do for sure.
Well, even the FBI, when they released their files on it, they said that that there was enough evidence to conclude that at the time there was a creature. To me, that's just tantamount to saying, yes, it exists, because if there's one, there's got to be others. That it wasn't just one creature down through the centuries.
Yeah, you're right. And if there's one, there's got to be others. There's got to be a mom and a pop and probably brothers and sisters. And, you know, I like I said, there's been kind of two sides of the cottage industries that came up along with that film. And the other side is the skeptical side.
Yeah.
And skeptics, they make the argument, you know, that cryptozoology, there's no real degree that you can get in cryptozoology. And I have to remind them that there's no real degree that you can get in skepticism. Skepticism is learned on the fly, just like anything else is. You know, if you want to be critical and have a skeptical eye, you can find something wrong with almost everything. Even our Zoom meeting, somebody could find something wrong with it. You know.
Yeah.
Mr. Davis, I have found, though, in Europe, Austria being one country and Hungary was another, where they have a college in each one, where I was able to take a courses in cryptozoology and actually got a diploma course from each one. Because I feel like, you couldn't get it in the United States, so I had to go outside, over the border. But I mean, they did bring a lot of good stuff to the table, for the money. I have to admit that. I just wish we would catch up over here. I was speaking with another cryptozoologist yesterday during the morning for a good 3 hours in the early morning, and we were talking about why. And I mean, I've always been asked this question: why, people don't see Sasquatch and Dogman a lot. And why they can't get great pictures. Well, for one, I would think they would sleep during the daytime and hunt during the nighttime. And if they're hunting during the nighttime, or if they're around eating things at nighttime, you're a lot less apt to be able to see them. And forest areas that they hang out in and everything, unless you're out there specifically hunting them with night vision and they're there, you're not going to find them. I mean, that's one of my theories anyway.
Well, that sounds reasonable. It's you're looking for essentially legends.
Exactly.
Yeah. People have only the best encounters have been very brief. And so if you're wanting to put it in the books, the requirements are pretty high for actually putting something in a textbook, and so a dog man would be something that the bar would probably be even higher.
I have to tell you, it's very high, because I had an encounter with a dog man. I was 30 feet away, and I did not think to grab a camera. I had pepper spray in one hand and a 10mm Glock in the other. And I'm going to tell you, no way in hell was I going to reach for my cell phone and put it in excuse me, Mr. Dogman, I got to put this in camera mode. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
They don't pose for you. And I came across a bear. It's been a few years ago at Bluff Creek. And I was hiking, and I had a hiking stick in my hand, and I was, curiously enough, I was just looking down at the ground, at my feet.
Yeah.
And I heard the bear breathing, and I looked up, and the bear was coming straight at me, and he was looking down at his feet.
What was it?
We were about to run into each other.
Like that old Bugs Bunny cartoon, bread and butter, bread and butter, bread and butter.
What kind of bear was it? Brown, black?
Well, it was one of those peculiar Bluff Creek black bears that seemed to have a little brown in them.
Uh-huh.
The sun was behind it, and I could see the sun through the fur, and it reminded me of a grizzly in a way. It kind of had a hump on the shoulder, but it wasn't big. It wasn't big enough to be a grizzly. Had chocolate colored eyes, and I looked him dead in the eye, which you're never supposed to do, they tell me. And for a split second, him and I kind of communicated. And I don't know if you've ever gotten a bad dog in front of you and you could kind of read that dog a little bit, what his intentions were. Well, it was kind of like that. And I could tell that the bear was not going to do anything. And he just kind of glared at me for a second and then bounced off and jumped down an almost vertical embankment.
Wow.
I guess I only can guess that he must have just hit and rolled,
Yeah.
Takes a lot to hurt those things, I'll tell you that.
Well, I was grateful that he didn't want to hurt me. But you know what? I had a camera around my neck. And I never touched it.
Nope. How close do you think you were? How close?
I was at 20 feet, maybe.
That's good.
That's pretty close.
That is.
I could have got me a really good wall hanging picture if I wanted to just pick it up in my hands and do it. But, the heat of the moment.
Or the two of you could have been like this and did a selfie, Excuse me.
Well, that's the extraordinary thing about the Patterson film is that he did get his camera and get that.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sure there's been plenty of opportunities, but people just can't seem to become, they're transfixed by what's going on there.
What's a paradigm shift? 2 seconds ago you didn't believe it existed, and there it is.
It's hard to have camera on your mind when that's going on. You're looking at something that you're not supposed to even be seeing. And so I can understand that, but Patterson was camera ready in his case.
Mm-hmm. Which is really fortunate for us that he captured that.
Oh
yeah. It turned the whole world of anthropology on its ear.
I forgot his name, but there was a Russian zoologist that studied that film for over 2.5 years and came to the conclusion that it was real. It was authentic. That what he captured there was the real deal.
Yeah, the Russians studied it extensively.
Yeah.
I know Igor Bortsev did, and Dmitry Bayanov.
That's the one. That's the fellow.
Yeah. And let me tell you what, those guys are astute observers. And some of the things that I discovered on the film through technology, they had discovered it already through calculations.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They carefully calculated Roger Patterson's up and down motions as he was, and then they figured film speed based on that and distance to the subject, taking what the film would give them And and some of the things I discovered that she wasn't using her left arm very much in a natural way.
Mhm.
The arms are used to counterbalance as we step, and the left one she wasn't. They had already determined that there was something amiss with her left arm. So the Russians were kind of ahead in a lot of ways, in the sense that they weren't constrained by rampant skepticism.
Yeah.
They just looked at it and said, "What does the film tell us, and what is it going to give us?" And then they made their decision based on that, and that's science. It didn't happen over here in the States like that, though.
Based on your observation and other observations, what would you say would have been roughly the height and weight of Patty?
The height is going to be about 6'5" there and about, so maybe a little more, maybe a little lower, because she's bent over and she's on a broken ground. Okay, the weight, from what I've been able to determine, is about double what you think it should be.
Really?
Yeah. In other words, if a cubic inch of Sasquatch flesh would weigh about double what a cubic inch of modern man's flesh.
Right.
Much denser bone and flesh.
It's much denser, way denser. If it looks like it weighs 500, you can count on 1,000.
That could explain some of the accounts from hunters that claims they've shot one with no effect.
Yeah, it's so dense it's hard to penetrate. I found a set of tracks in 2015 on the sandbar there at Bluff Creek, and I could not put a dent in the ground, and they went 4 inches.
Wow.
4 inches.
4 inches deep.
We're talking what, then 1,800 pounds?
That thing weighed. It was scary. I photographed them and videotaped them. I didn't have plaster with me. I kind of wish I had. It was about 12 to 15 tracks. And I had some Japanese gentlemen with me, and they weren't serious until they saw those. And then they wouldn't let me out of their sight.
Suddenly it got a little real.
Yeah, well, they didn't want anything because they didn't think they could get out of there.
How big were the tracks, roughly heel to toe?
They were about 14 inches.
It's a big track.
Well, it's not. There's bigger tracks, but
yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything that deep, that
So
highly compressed.
Very dense. So one at 6 foot, we'll say 7 feet tall. Like
Right.
One that would probably weigh in the ballpark of 1,000 pounds.
Oh yeah.
That's a big animal.
If it stepped on your foot, it would crush all the bones in your foot.
Man. Guys, supposedly, if you got a quarter of an inch, a human male, it would be about 200 pounds. So you're talking about 2 inches there. I mean, you're probably talking the upwards of 1,600 pounds or more. That's amazing. And you said dry?
There was a man, a science institute called NASI, North American Science Institute, and back in the 70s, they were commissioned to study the Patterson film. And a fellow by the name of Jeff Glickman determined that Patty weighed 1,400 pounds. Whoa. And the whole world of Bigfoot were just uproar over that. But as more information comes in, it appears that he was probably correct.
Yes, sir.
Well, I've said for a long time they've got to be very, very dense. You've got a question, Mr. Davis, from one of our guests. Greg Price asks, what does your guest think of Bill Munn's peer-reviewed debunking of the man in the suit theory published in Meldrum's journal?
Well, I don't know about debunk. If I haven't read all of that, so I hate to comment too much on it. I know Bill. He does pretty good work. He's done some work on the film as well. And I agree with him that it's real. You know, we may not agree on everything, but I agree with him on that. That's fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
And I admire anybody that would take this up. You know,
Yeah.
usually it's to their own detriment, and they, you know, that the fact that they'll do it in spite of the fact that it's not good for a career or not good for relationships and things like that. I admire that, and I thank him for his efforts. I sure do.
Sean Bussard wants to know, did it walk heel to toe?
Heel to toe, yes. The rocked over. I'm gonna tell you something about the awkward gait. Has as much to do with mass as anything. When you see the Patterson subject, and it's got the leg sticking straight back, you know, behind it, that is not a walking gait. You see it right there. That's a running gait. But you say, well, she's not running. You know, why has she got a running gait? It's because of mass. Mass and forward motion, momentum carries it over the fulcrum into it, like it was jogging, but much slower. We could not maintain a run like that very long. You know, that slow.
Mm-hmm.
But because of their mass, and it also the line of prints that are in a line with each other is a result of a running gait. We all leave footprints in a line if we run. We only get side by side when we walk.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at a running gait, but it's normal for the Sasquatch. It's very, very slow for a run, but she's got the mass to keep her going, you know, with that gait. So that's an odd and unusual thing, and when people see it, they say it looks like a glide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's essentially is a running gait, but very slow, a very slow run.
Well, if it's got that much mass, it would take a tremendous amount of force to get it up to any kind of speed.
You're right, and if you got up to a speed, it would be hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
I've heard
it
people
operates differently.
I've heard reports of ones crashing off through the woods, and they've described it as sounding like a truck crashing through the woods.
Well, if you've ever seen the picture that people have hanging on their walls, is footprints in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a little prayer usually with it. You know, they're all in a row in a line, and it's a person who jogged down the beach. You know. So people say, well, the inline footprints are a sign that it's a Sasquatch. Well, yeah, it could be, or a person who's running.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I don't think you'd find too many people out in the deep woods running barefoot.
No, and especially if you can kind of tell if it's 4 inches deep that it's not your average person. No, it's gonna a Sasquatch looks like they're gliding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just their weight is carrying them over that fulcrum, that center of gravity, and then they on to the next step, and without a lot of forward speed.
It's still bringing a tremendous amount of weight down on a single foot.
Oh, it is. You wouldn't want her to step on your toes.
Definitely not. Well, the Patterson Giblin film broke so much ground. It involved it was actually even compelling enough to involve people in teaching positions and educated people like Dr. Jeff Meldrum. Even Jane Goodall has commented on the possibility of Bigfoot.
Well, it's opened some eyes, and you see the better stuff, the better versions of it. If there's anything that I've had anything to do with, it's trying to get it in its best form. You know, with the defect side of it, and And one of them is what they call chromatic aberration. It's a lensing defect that contributes to the overall unsharpness of the film. It's a separation of the colors, and not all the colors being brought to a sharp focus. So you got some colors that are very sharp, and others that are blurred, and they're all together in one image. So if you can separate the colors and remove the ones that are unsharp, then you will have a sharper image. The color might be off, but if you're looking for details, the image will be much sharper. And so that's I went frame by frame and filtered every one of those frames and boosted the sharpness because I was like you guys and a lot of other people. I wanted to know. I thought the film itself would tell its own story, that it would not need anyone to give testimony if it were good enough.
Yeah.
You know, so we see in the film what the two men described was huge muscles moving.
I read an article one time. It was somebody that postulated that there was more than one creature there at that time. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Oh, yeah. I do think that. For one thing, Patterson and Gimlin both said that there were a set of 3 tracks down there. You know, so you know that by itself, and if you look at the Patterson subject, her breasts are very heavy,
like she's nursing.
Yeah, and you know, experience tells you that that's a likely the reason why. It's clearly they're clearly as dense as water anyway. And when she would take a step, the breasts would be about a half step behind it in reacting, you know, up and down motion.
Right.
So that's about the density of water. So that tells you a lot right there that she had a lot of milk in there, and it was probably a small one around there somewhere, and maybe even the daddy.
Yeah, a friend of mine and my friend Greg, in fact, the guy that just commented there said Jane Goodall's people wish she never would have said that. We watched the Patterson Gimlin footage together a long time ago, and I had the impression like, and this is just my opinion, that I don't have anything to back that up besides my gut feeling, but I almost felt like she was distracting them. Like she'd glanced toward the trees a couple of times and kept walking, like she was trying to draw them away from maybe where the infant, the child was hidden.
Yeah. Some of the testimony they gave, they said that she looked back at them twice. And if you take the film is in 2 sections. And when you look at the first section, it's a little bit blurred, but you can see her turn her body halfway around and look back. And when, you know, in my estimation, it says my phone is overheating. In my estimation, that appears to me the same way. That's the impression I get, is that she's trying to make sure.
Oh, we just lost him.
Well, since we lost him, his phone's overheating, we can answer this question here. I don't know what your thoughts on it are, DA, or you, Roger, but I know for a fact that the forest reclaims its own. Different animals will eat the flesh, the organs, the bones. Even deer will eat bones found in the forest. It's all for the
calcium.
For the minerals. Yeah, well, and the other minerals too. Now, in reference to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them by name, there have been theories that they do bury their own. So they would not leave one of their own dead around. They would go back and take the one away, and they would bury him somewhere somehow. And they have their own procedures there.
I would use the example of bears. grizzly bears, black bears, whatever type of bear is in your area. I grew up deer hunting. I spent a lot of time in the woods, sometimes just hiking, sometimes just out goofing around. But I have never come across a bear skeleton. I know a few people that have come across partial skeletons of bears, but it's very, very rare that they find a bear, even a partial bear skeleton, and we know they exist.
It's extremely rare, and yeah, we do know they exist. We had a bear. There's a federal and state park, maybe 1,000 feet from where I live. That's where it starts anyway. And inside there was a black bear. There was a dead black bear, a very old dead black bear that we came across because the odor was absolutely foul. It was July of last year, at the height of our COVID and everything. And this thing was eaten upon by buzzards. And the buzzards were in the tree and they were on the ground and they were taking their turns. And then when the buzzards weren't there was other animals that went by. And I actually saw a large buck walking away with a bone in its mouth. And that was simply amazing to me to see something like that happen.
Welcome back, sir.
All righty. I went and got a small fan and took my phone out of the case. And so I got it blowing on me. So maybe it won't overheat anymore.
Well, keep your fingers crossed.
All right.
We are picking a little background noise, but it's not too bad.
Okay, I was going to ask you that next.
That's the fan.
Pretty quiet fan.
It sounds like we're in an aquarium with the bubbles.
It does kind of.
It's high tech, low tech, isn't it?
Yeah.
Low tech solution for a high tech problem.
There you go.
Sometimes low tech works the best. One of the questions right before we lost you was from Sean Bussard. He said, "What would you say to all the skeptics that say if they exist, we would have found bones?"
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say about that, except that I think that they probably have found bones. They were either misidentified or either just put in somebody's basement. Mm-hmm. There's been several instances where they found giant skulls. They found the minaret skull. It had huge brow ridges, and the Boy Scouts were on an expedition, and a mule kicked it up out of a bog, and it went to a museum, and that was the last they seen of it.
There have been a number of incidents reported where large bones were found and given to the Smithsonian, then gone.
Yeah. So my advice to anybody, if you find a Sasquatch anything, don't give it to the Smithsonian.
No kidding.
No, not if you want to ever see it again. And that's the problem, Mr. Davis. When you find hair, when you find bones, the organization I work for, the NADP, we actually have what we believe is a dogman, part of a dogman's, I guess it would be the right-hand side of the jawbone with a large canine there too. But we don't know who we can actually trust to give it to have it really tested out, because we've sent hair samples out and they've turned up missing. We had a bone sample we sent out, nothing. They said, "Oh, we don't even have it." I say that's BS, because we have receipts that say that the place received it. So it's like, who do you turn to? I mean, you need a really trusted person to give this the fines to, that is.
Well, I'll give you an example. The last truly wild Indian, in other words, no contact person, came out of the woods in 1911, and they called him Ishi. That wasn't his name. He never gave them his name, but he lived 3 years before he died from tuberculosis, and he lived in the Phoebe Hearst Museum in California, in Berkeley. And when he passed away, his wish was to be interred, not to be autopsied, because his religious beliefs were that all his body had to be whole. And anthropologist Oren Starn was doing some research and came across Alfred Kroeber's correspondences with the Smithsonian. Alfred Kroeber was the caretaker for Ishi. He was an anthropologist. And in that correspondence, he said that he sent them Ishi's brain.
Oh.
And so Orange Starn turned that into the local tribes. And they got it, and they made a request that the brain be returned. And the Smithsonian denied having it. And they got a lawyer and produced it in court, the evidence, and the Smithsonian sent them a brain.
Whether it was the right one or not, who knows?
It came from a vat with 35 other brains floating around in it. Who knows where they came from?
Exactly. Why would they put them all in the same vat? My God.
I don't know. They're not a scientific institution. They're a collecting institution.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to kind of remember that, they employ scientists, but ultimately they're there to collect. And so they have over 18,000 Native American skeletons in their basement. And they've collected them by digging up graves for the last 100 years or so. And some of them are ancient. Some of them are modern. They're somebody's grandpa, you know. They kind of indiscriminately did it because at one time they believed in what you call a eugenics theory, that you could tell a person's intellectual ability or potential by the shape of his head.
Phrenology.
Yeah. So matter of fact, they advised the government when we were fighting the Japanese on the potential of the Japanese, you know, whether they could figure this out or that out. It was all bunk. But they're exempt from having to return those skeletons. Everybody else has to return theirs for reburial, but not the Smithsonian. So if you give them something that there's no law to protect you or anything.
They're not giving it back.
They're probably not going to give it back, and not willingly. So that's unfortunate, but I do want to give them some credit in the guy that's running it now. Stanford seems to be a lot more open-minded, better than past people they've had. They had a guy named Ales Herlishka who was their first anthropologist, and he had no degree at all. He came over here from Bohemia and tried to get on with the Smithsonian. They wouldn't hire him.
No.
So he goes back to Bohemia and gets him a degree in anthropology from somewhere over there. He comes back with it. They still wouldn't hire him. So he goes to the American Museum and he offers to work for free. And so they use him to do digging and stuff. And so he takes that and he puts that on his resume, and he finally gets hired, and he becomes just like, he just beats down all the competition and becomes head of the department. And close to a real life Dr. Frankenstein as you could ever get. I don't know how we end up with people like that running these places, but he went down to Mexico after an earthquake and picked up a little dead baby with the mother standing right there and just threw it out in the road like it was a sack of potatoes. You know, so yeah, the guy that's running it now, he's way better than that.
Good. But it doesn't take much to be better than that.
Wow.
Greg Price says the Smithsonian is notorious for losing problematic finds. Sean Bustard says, "Evening, gentlemen. I think Sean's tuning out for the night." Josh Jones says, "I think this one's for you, Nick." He said, "Send it to the research team that ran Skinwalker Ranch." And then Greg makes the comment, top men.
No, definitely not. I'll tell you.
I don't know too much about the TV people. The TV projects they have. I will say this: that television, by and large, is willing to entertain the more esoterical things than they did used to would even air.
Mm-hmm.
So at least to that extent, it's better than it used to be. But I don't know if you're getting true science out of any of that. It's all entertainment.
It's all about ratings.
Yeah.
Josh says he was just joking.
Skinwalker Ranch. I've read the book.
It's an interesting place. I would like to go there.
Yeah, it's a scary place too. What they say. I don't know if anything's still going on like that, but gosh, to see some of those things they describe there, that's where you get into the paranormal aspect of Bigfooting. It's almost inevitably attached to the high strangeness.
Yeah.
And you're talking about something that's got a body that's so dense that it weighs double what we weigh. It's like us, but it's not exactly us.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some internals that are different. And when you talk about the brain and all of that, we really don't know what they're capable of. And that whole area at the Bluff Creek, like from Bluff Creek to Mount Shasta, is all interconnected with underground tunnels and lava tubes, things like that. And so, the strangeness around Mount Shasta, I don't know, you probably, if you haven't read about it, you can just type it in to Google. It's some really wild things that people have claimed to have seen at Mount Shasta. Amongst them, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So it's about 70 miles as the crow flies from the Bluff Creek drainage to Mount Shasta. So that's all high strange area. And I've experienced some high strangeness out there. I've had electronic equipment malfunction. I've had autofocus wouldn't focus, and when we left the area, it all went back to working correctly. I've had the temperature of the ground be 100 degrees. Going up some of those slopes, to the ridges.
Right.
Things like that. When you look at the Patterson subject, especially in the early part, I call sequence 1 of the film, when Patterson is directly behind her and below her, you can see the cleavage in her rear end, and the hair is worn away on her buns toward the inside. So it tells me something. It tells me that she spent an inordinate amount of time scooting about on her rear end, which gives you a little bit of a clue as to the environment she might have been in. An area with probably not as much headroom, kind of an overhang or cave,
right,
a tube, something like that.
Mr. Davis, I'd just like to ask, I hate to interrupt, but any way we might be able to see some of the cleared up film that you have today by any chance?
Yeah, I've got a website. It's called The Davis Report.
Oh, wow.
It's thedavisreport.wordpress.com. And some of the best stuff on the film is on there. And you may have to hunt for it because I just keep putting it up in chronological order.
Right. I'm sorry. The Davis Report.
The Davis Report.wordpress.com. It's all small letters all together. There you go.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That's the latest thing I posted. I posted it today.
I was looking at that just earlier today. You can see the movement of the mouth.
Yeah, it's the quality is of the film is there's the original had probably almost double that resolution, but even on that generated copy, you can still see the movement of the jaw and the mouth when you stabilize it. That's another copy that I posted. That came from the World Wildlife Federation, and I did a little looping file there so you could see the muscles in the legs and stuff. It's got kind of it's kind of faded to red.
You want me to run that again?
Yeah, you can run with it as much as you want. It's
Yeah, look at that.
it's you could stay on that site for a while with the Patterson stuff. A lot of good stuff there. See how stable that is, the background?
Yeah. And you can see the movement. If I was going to fake a suit, I don't think I would try to fake one that had breasts.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I would have just gone with a male one. It's a lot easier.
Well,
Wow.
what you see on the Patterson film that indicates that it's not fake is not only because it's so clear. I think there you see the thumb motion, don't you?
Yeah.
It's the duration of the film. Typically, a hoaxer will not allow you to look at it but a second.
Is that so? Are we seeing eye shine there?
There does seem to be some eye glow. I've got a filtered image of frame. I believe it's frame 62. Oh no, frame 64. You can probably find it there on the Davis report, and the eye does appear to glow.
I mean, as we all know, humans don't have eye shine, but
no, that's another thing that is kind of points to something different rather than us. Yeah. And that one right there, you see an object in the left hand. It's kind of white looking, right along the leg.
Yeah.
What is that, do you think?
That's why the Russian said that her left hand doesn't move much.
She's carrying
they noticed that. I picked it up again later in the film, and it's pretty good size. It looks to be about the size of a catcher's mitt. It could be anything in the wild. It's common to carry what they call a parfletch. A parfletch would be it's made of leather or cloth, and it's just folded over objects that and then rolled up or folded to help carry. I don't know for sure, but I just I have to make a note of it, that it is in the film. There it is right there. That's when I told you I found it again.
Not to be funny, but it is a female, and most females like to carry a purse. So she's carrying things. That probably is it. Some sort of a skin, a hide from a deer or something, and fold it over.
Yeah,
there doesn't seem to be anything in her hand in this one.
Yeah.
No, because she's carrying it with a lanyard. It's got a lanyard around her neck. I picked it up in several frames. It's just
like a homemade satchel.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a satchel. It's got a little small lanyard that maybe I'll show it later on. If you go down, it may show in some of this. I don't know. If not, I can This is some of the higher quality inserts into the film. I just put them in their proper places.
Oh, that's a good look at the face right there.
Yeah.
Oh, there. That's even better. You can see the mouth.
Okay.
The lip.
That one you just looked at is the one that has the eye glow.
Let me see if I can get it back and stop it.
That brings a whole new thing to that film now. Showing the eye glow, showing the what
Is that the spot?
No, it's one back, I think.
Yeah, go back slightly.
I think that's it.
Yeah, you can see something up near the eye.
Well, you have to look at the filtered image. It shows it real well. When you're talking about, I know that one of the names that Native Americans had for them were moon-eyed people.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, right. Several of the tribes would call them that.
And it's funny that tribes that had no contact, East and West Coast tribes, describe similar creatures.
They do.
I mean, how do you explain that? You know, I mean, we're talking 3,000 miles away from each other, and they're saying the same exact thing. My research has shown the exact same thing you just said. Unbelievable. Look at that.
That's the first walk sequence right there. You see how wild it was. I stabilized the image and just let the perimeter to go where it wanted to go, you know.
Yeah.
That's a black and white.
Look at the stride. Look at the stride on that.
Well, and on a human, especially somebody that's, sedentary, that you would see a certain amount of jiggle in the thighs as they walked. But look how thick and powerful those thighs are, and they're solid. They don't shake at all.
Oh, remember, their bones are super dense and they're all muscle. There's no fat on these things.
Yeah, there's not much fat on it.
There are no. I mean, what do they eat that's fat-wise? I mean, nothing. They don't, have cherry pie and donuts and things. It's like, oh man.
MK, you've done an amazing job on these. These are beautiful.
Well, thank you.
There's a thylacine.
I worked on that a little bit too. I wanted I used a new processing technique that took the flicker out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what it did was give it lifelike motion, without any, because this whole film taken at slow shutter speeds, slow frame rates. So I got it's more smooth now, and you can kind of look in that mouth.
Look at that mouth.
Man, look how wide it thing can open its mouth.
Look, the tongue. The tongue is very different from a canine tongue.
Oh.
Let me tell you what, that thing will rip you to pieces.
I bet it would. That could put your whole head in its mouth.
Looks like it has a bite pressure of about 500, 600 pounds. My God. Woo.
And they were more than willing to bite. As a matter of fact,
nice puppy.
they that one right there bit the guy, the cameraman. I'm gonna see if I can find.
No, you're not. It's like.
Hold on here. I should have second quality. There we go. All right, this is a filtered image. I don't know if I can turn this around and show this or not. Let me try.
Oh, look at that thing.
I'm trying to get around.
Notice the back legs on that, DA? On that what do you call it? The thylacine?
Thylacine.
Yeah, did you notice how the back legs are?
Yeah.
The knees are forward like yours and mine.
So if it wanted to, it could probably walk upright. Look at that image there on that MK's got, though. That's
unbelievable.
Let me go back to it again. Hold on. If you'll notice around the neck, you'll see that lanyard right there pulling on the skin.
Yeah, you need to move to your right just a little bit. We can't really see it. Kind of cutting off. There we go. I see it. I see what you're talking about.
You're right under the chin.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Wow. This puts a whole new slant on it. We're talking about a little bit more intelligence than your average bear here.
Yeah, a whole lot
more.
But that's why you can't find them, because they're not a bear.
No, no, not at all. Like I said, my theory is that they sleep, during that daytime, and at night they're out hunting, and this was probably an anomaly. Look at that.
It's and like you went to, you got a degree in cryptozoology, so you know about like the thylacine there.
Yes, sir.
There are people who hunt thylacines every day trying to rediscover them, and the general theory is, and it's like a lot of animals, when they become pressured, or when they become they feel like their world is closing in, they go into a nocturnal mode. They won't come out in the daytime.
Well, look at the panda bear. Took them 65 years after they saw the first one to actually find one. And the guy looking for it died before he found it, and his wife found it. Unbelievable.
This one shows the leg bulge.
Yes, look at that.
What do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of theories, but I'm satisfied to say it's sufficient to say that it is a bulge from something.
Previous wound or something?
It exists for one frame, and then she turns away, so where you can't see the leg anymore. So if it shows in anywhere else, you don't know, because you see the slow motion there. That was the new processing. Look at that. See that slow motion, how smooth it is?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The original film was shot at 16 frames per second, or slightly less, and it had a lot of flicker.
Mm.
And I was able to reprocess it to get the flicker out.
I'm thinking it might be the muscleclature on this creature here. The thigh muscle, as with regular humans that have the knees forward, the thigh muscle is generally larger than the hamstring muscle because it's a lot less used. I'm wondering if due to the environmental area that these creatures climb a lot, which would increase the muscleclature of the thigh muscle, the top thigh.
Yeah, that goes back to the female nature of it.
Yeah, and most females do have larger thighs than males.
Now there's something.
Oh, this is the Russian, the Yeti.
Yeah, it's that stabilized. People ask me about that, and I say, well, I'll leave it up to Russian colleagues over there to sort it out.
Looks pretty realistic to me.
Yeah, I put it in the best form that I could, and look here, it's boogieing through that deep snow. It's kicking that snow way back.
Yeah, and the stride length is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. There again, you don't get a lot of opportunity to see it very long. It cuts on out of there pretty fast. But
do we know what they're following them on? Is that a snowmobile?
No, they're in a vehicle.
Oh, they're in a vehicle.
Yeah, it's a dash cam.
Russians like their dash cams.
Yeah, and they sure got a set of brass ones to be going after a Yeti.
I don't think that they were pursuing a Yeti. I think that they ran across it.
Look at, oh my God. See
it kicking that snow?
Look at the stride going through snow. The stride, if you've ever run through snow, you know how hard it is.
Yeah, and he's still covering a hell of a lot of distance through deep
That
snow.
thing is covering distance like a track athlete just on a track.
It crossed that road in 2 bounds, and that's the width of a car, at least.
Look at that.
I'm gonna tell you what. That's not 32-degree snow either.
That's that's Siberian Arctic cold.
I know.
Yeah.
It didn't act like it was very cold. It was plenty limber.
Jeez.
Those are all really very interesting things to me, and
Oh, me too.
that's on the other side of the world, but still,
Yeah.
Very similar to what we're finding here.
it's kind of similar. Yeah. I think that shows the breast jiggling. I think, don't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir, it does.
They're not just cotton.
Yeah.
No.
That shows a little braid of hair, what looks like a braid. You can see the ear right there.
Uh-huh.
Now, it could be a dreadlock.
Yeah.
A lot of the research I've done on Sasquatch, believe it or not, has brought up the fact that Sasquatch in the area have gone into the barns where their horses are held up, and they would braid the hair on the horses.
Yeah,
I don't see how a horse would stand for that, but that makes sense. That's a braid.
Don Monroe has got a whole suitcase full of manes that he's had clipped off that were braided.
Why do you think they do that to horses?
The horse seems to let them do it for some reason.
Practice.
That's Ishi right there. That's the guy I was telling you about, Ishi, that they took his brain and sent it to the Smithsonian. You notice he's plucking the string with his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only people who did that were Mongolians. There were no other Native American groups or tribes that did that. Mongolians had a thumb ring, a wooden ring they put on their thumb and plucked the string.
Mr. Davis, why did they take his brain? Why did they want his brain specifically?
Because they knew he was different.
Ah, okay. Well, that proves it right there. It's one of the things that would prove it. Using the thumb technique to shoot a bow and arrow. I know as a child I used to use the forefinger and the thumb to pull it back, and then I learned, do it the other way. That is something. What's the eye shine on that thing?
That's the Mayaka skunk ape right there.
Yeah.
Taken in Florida.
It was taken in a lady's backyard, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. There's some Kennedy stuff.
Mm-hmm. From the Zapruder film.
Yeah, clips from it. I used that processing technique and was able to smooth it out. It's just not a pretty thing to see.
No. Yeah, you can clearly see the moment of impact there.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
But going back to that skunk ape, I mean, clearly, that's, you don't fake the eye shine.
No, you most certainly do not.
Oh, man.
That thing, it had a significant amount of eye shine.
Well, I could spend hours just on your website there.
That's what I was saying. It's got a lot of good stuff on there.
We've got some questions lined up while we were looking at the video. Greg Price says, "What's going to happen to the field of crypto when the current generation passes on? Seems like the kids are more interested in laughing than researching."
Yeah, I guess you got a good point there. I thought about that often.
Well, you know what? There's always people that are more serious than, and they have a different need than just to play with their computer games and stuff like that. You're always going to have people that are interested in that.
I'll tell you something. A lot of people that go into cryptozoology do so as a result of a personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, if you see one yourself, and you don't have anybody to talk to, or I've seen people just take it up. I want to prove it. I want people to understand what it was that I saw, and so it happens, I guess. But and then there's other people like Rene DeHenden, the Canadian. He wanted it to find one for the money.
Yeah.
He thought it was some big money to be had or made, and that was his driving force.
Yeah. Sean Bussard says, just like any other type of animal, do you believe there's an alpha or because they travel in pairs?
That's a good question. I don't know if there really is an alpha in a sense like an alpha wolf or something.
Well, you know what? In any group, you're going to have a leader. You're going to have a leader as in any group. And there probably is an alpha someplace if they have a group of more than two. Somebody has to be the leader.
There probably is whatever's kind of social structure they may have. There's probably somebody that's calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen. Without subjects to study, it's hard to say. That's where you run into problems on our end as interested people or researchers. Is that we become used to a scheme or a maybe a framework of understanding that we assume or figure happens.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people are highly resistant to any other ideas, even if the other ideas may be correct. They just, if someone is convinced like it's a gorilla, they really don't want to hear, or a lot of them don't want to hear any hypothesis about it being some kind of primitive person.
Which way do you come down? Do you think it's an ape, or do you think it's a relic hominid?
I don't think that it's an ape or a gorilla. Even the most rarest of the apes, that we can still go and we can locate them and find them.
Silverback gorilla.
I think that it is a person, a human, but not a sapient human, not sapiens.
Maybe like a relic of Neanderthal?
Some kind of a relic or something like that, because of its unusual physical attributes, its density,
Right.
its muscle density, and the glowing eyes, and the things that are reported like that, the high strangeness that's reported about them. I don't think it's us.
Yeah.
We're not looking at a version of us. It's so unlike us that they don't even think they feel no kinship to us.
Well, they've got to be close enough genetically where they're at least similar. Then you get the reports out of Russia, like Zana, that they thought was a hybrid.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reports from accounts from Native Americans about females being carried off.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the Patterson subject is probably a hybrid. It's probably not. If you look at the hair coverage and everything, it's pretty patchy.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Paul Freeman video, I believe that to be more in line with what a Bigfoot is.
Mm-hmm.
And Patty from what the native peoples told me, and I spent a good deal of time on the Hooper Reservation, is that the kidnappings that took place, and also there were 10,000 Chinese in there doing the hydraulic gold mining during the 1840s. That it provided a lot of opportunity for that type of thing to occur. There was a bear hunter who encountered a group of Sasquatch, and he put his rifle scope on them, and he says some were covered in hair and others were hairless, and they were all together. So I believe what the Hoopa said is true, that the true Bigfoot is a rarer thing than, at least in the Bluff Creek area. You see more of the type like what Patty is, that are kind of hybridized. They don't have the full complement of hair that a Bigfoot would have, or nor the size. The foot looks normal on Patty. It looks like a big version of our feet. But if you look at the Paul Freeman's tracks, the toes are splayed, and they're more forward on the foot, and the foot is an hourglass shape. I believe that there's probably something to that, and that there are cases where down the line, generations ago, human and Bigfoot managed to have a viable offspring together. And
that would explain for different types in different areas as well.
Right, exactly. They're not all the same. You may find one that looks so much like a human that it may not draw a lot of attention if you've got a set of clothes for it.
There have been hunters' accounts that said they put a rifle scope on one and didn't pull the trigger because they thought it was a person.
You're right; it looks so human. But you look at the one there on the Paul Freeman, taken up in the Blue Mountains above Walla Walla, Washington, and it looks as it looks like a brutish look, but if you melded the two between a human woman and that, you would get something like Patty,
right?
Which is what the Hoopas told me.
Some of the accounts, especially like the Bella Coola up in British Columbia, they were saying it was just they treated them just like another tribe, as if they were another tribe of Native Americans that lived in the mountains, and cautioned people to not go up there because they would get aggressive.
Well, you gotta understand that the very fact that they cautioned people meant they weren't treating them like just another tribe.
Yeah.
They knew that they had some particular things about them that you could get in trouble with them.
It may still be going on today. I mean, look at the stretch of highway in Canada where so many Native American women have gone missing over the last decade.
I won't say that they're the reason, but I won't say that they're not.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like have you watched any of the Missing 411 series?
I have. I've watched some of those. Those are heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. The ones I find most compelling is the series The Hunters, where you've got armed men who were experienced and knew the area that gone without a trace.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Yeah, people that hunted that area for years and knew it like the back of their hand. They're not going to just climb out of their deer stand and go wander off.
And speaking of hunters with like scopes and everything, Mr. Davis, I just want to get your opinion on this because my research has shown quite a bit of a thing called mind speak. I have research that shows a hunter or a man with a gun. He's out in the woods and he puts a scope on a Sasquatch, and in his mind it says "don't," and another fellow in his mind it says, if you shoot, we will kill you. Plain and simple. That he gets it's called mind speak. You ever come across anything like that?
I have. I started my foray into this field back in the mid '90s, so I've been doing it for a while, and I've come across a lot of things, and I've learned that I don't want to be amongst those who have a lockdown framework of because I think that will prevent you in some cases from. You need to be able to be right about some things. You don't need to be so afraid of being wrong that you're afraid to be right.
Yeah.
And so I take people's word for it. Somebody says, I heard this in my mind. I take their word for it. I can't possibly get in their head to verify anything.
Yeah.
So unless I have a reason to disbelieve, I believe it. I take them at their word for it.
Right.
And I always make notes of what people say about it. And then later on, if there any more information comes in, I try to put it all together, because ultimately you're putting a puzzle together.
Mm-hmm.
My research has shown well over 120 reports, and it's probably minuscule compared to what's out there of people saying the exact same thing of the mind speak. Where they're told to stop and don't come after me. Just stay where you are, or don't shoot. Something like that. But I've got over 120, and like I said, it's probably not even the tip of the iceberg on that.
Well, I told you about the bear, that I encountered.
Oh, yeah.
we for a split second there, I understood that bear.
Of one mind.
We looked right at each other, right dead in the eye, and I think that he understood me too. And if it's one of those things where God, our Creator, put in us when we're born, the ability, some innate ability to read another individual.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be body language or his eyes or whatever. And to us, in a sense, that you could say that could be a form of like mind speak, because it's unspoken.
Right.
He didn't speak anything, and I didn't speak anything other than to say bear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because my friend who was behind me about 30 yards, his nickname was Bear. He thought I was talking to him. I said, Bear. Yeah, it all happened so fast that the bear would have eaten us both if he wanted us. But I understood it. I understood the bear, and so in that sense, I know that mind speak, whatever it is, can exist.
Yeah, right. Even if it's just like on an instinctual level.
If it's on a primitive level of understanding, it's not complex language, but
you probably showed no fear. You just showed surprise, and you stood your ground, and he understood you weren't trying to harm him, and he just went on his way.
I understand that primitive instinct. I've gone to a few places looking to look into local legends and stuff, and you just get that feeling at the back of your skull like, I'm not supposed to be here. And I listen to my gut when that happens. I don't press on. If I just get that nagging feeling at the back of my head like I really shouldn't be here, I will back away slowly.
Did you have it that night with you and Steve, DA? Or
no, I didn't feel a thing.
No?
No, wow. We were just out there shooting a promo for my books. MK, I'm not sure if you're familiar with my work. I've been I hate to use the word cryptozoologist because that seems to be reserved for guys like yourself who have done so much in the field, but since I was a young man, I've gone out and looked in the woods and checked places and talked to locals and taken accounts. And I read hundreds and hundreds of accounts that I find online or you can find on websites. I research the field almost constantly, but I took it to a different direction. I write fiction, and I use the accounts that I've read and the things I've learned to make the behaviors as believable as possible in the books I write. And so far it's been it's worked out fairly well for me.
I'd say so.
But like I said, I've taken it a different direction. I don't write nonfiction books. I don't write like the field guide to cryptozoology or anything like that. I write horror, and I enjoy it. It's stories I like to tell. But I use those encounters to base the behaviors.
But that's because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
True, very true.
Mr. Davis, I call him the Tom Clancy of cryptozoology because he does such deep and precise research in when he writes his books. I'm going to tell you, he's got a very large following over the last few months.
I can't tell you how many problems have been solved by people who are intuitive.
Yes, sir.
And that's a form of intuition where you take the real experiences and then you turn them into a kind of a predictive work that points the way down a road.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's fiction, it can still point you down the road to go. And how many good writers have done that over the years by like Star Trek, for instance, the communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
somebody wrote that as fiction, but now we're talking over a communicator.
Exactly.
So it's a skill and a field where people like yourself and others have become the sages of our day through fiction.
I spent most of my adult life in one uniform or another, most of the time in law enforcement. And that's the way I approach my writing from an evidentiary standpoint. And when I read accounts where they talk about mind speak, and then you've got some accounts where they talk about a cloaking ability, and some people think that they change dimensions. I don't dismiss that, but I deal more in physical evidence mentally myself, so I won't ever say that can't happen. But I tend to examine the things that you can tangibly touch and take those more credibly. But I don't dismiss the possibility of the others. I mean, I've never experienced mind speak. Anything I've experienced has just been my own brain telling me this is a bad spot. You probably shouldn't be here. But I'm not saying that, I might turn a corner one day and run into one and just hear "get out" in my head. And at that point, I'm probably going to take its advice. But so I won't dismiss that. And the how I view what people refer to as the cloaking ability is, I got a buddy that's an Army Ranger, and he was wearing his gear one day, and I told him, I said, "How easy is it for you to hide from me?" And he goes, "All right, I want you to watch me." And he was standing near the edge of the woods, and he took a step back, and I could still see him. He took another step back, and I could still see him. He took another step back and hit the tree line, and I could still see him. He took another step, and he was gone.
Do you know that actually happens in the Paul Freeman video, mm-hmm. where the thing is walking and it stops and looks back at him, and then you can't see it anymore.
Yeah. And when Mike didn't want to be seen, you couldn't find him. And we're talking about a creature that's born to that environment, so its ability to hide is probably astronomically higher than our ability.
Was he wearing a ghillie suit at the time?
Nope, just camouflage.
Oh, just camo. If he had the ghillie, he would have probably disappeared sooner then.
Mm-hmm.
The mind speak is one thing and the cloaking is another, but like infrasound, which they've also been credited with using, is something you can actually experience.
Oh yeah, there are a number of animals in the animal kingdom that use infrasound. Elephants, tigers, lions.
Top one. Yeah. I mean, you go to a zoo, and if it's looking at you bad and it doesn't want you there, and that growl that it puts out, you can feel it all the way down inside your chest. I mean, it's something to behold. It really is.
Well, the military has infrasound that will rip your guts out.
Oh, yes,
I mean, they have got the frequency and the amplitude that it will absolutely tear you up from the inside. So infrasound is, I believe that to be a component of something very large.
Mm-hmm. I went to a lecture one time when I was in college, and I was talking to the professor afterwards, and he was telling me about resonance frequencies. He said everything in existence has a resonance frequency, and if you hit that, it will shatter. He said that applies to people, that applies to objects. Everything has a resonance frequency, and if you hit it, you can kill it.
Yeah, I think it was Nikola Tesla who said that he could explode dynamite, and he knew exactly how long it took for it to go to the other side of the earth, through the earth, and back. And he said if he waited and timed it perfectly, he could explode another at the exact moment that it arrived back, and then they would compound one another or proliferate. And he could continue to do that until he could actually cause the entire earth to cleave in half.
Wow. And Tesla probably could have done it. The man was brilliant.
Yeah, he understood that, what they call a wave propagation.
Mm-hmm.
I think is what he called it. That you don't want to turn him loose with too much stuff.
No, Sergio, I think you're absolutely correct. Pissing yourself when you're scared. Yeah, I've been in that situation. Luis Noriega says, I know back in high school I wrote a paper on nuclear explosions, that purple potion in space after I graduated, and I found out they were experimenting with nuclear explosions for space travel.
Yeah, I've read about that. Actually blowing a bomb up to send you to the stars.
Yeah, they actually postulated that in the book Starship Troopers. They were using controlled nuclear explosions. They called it a Chernikov drive.
Problem is, you use it the wrong way, and your atoms go to the stars.
Pretty much. You're going to the stars, just not the way you planned. Sergio Lamelli asks, do you think that sirens use that infrasound to lure the sailors?
Well, that's something I don't know. That's considered to be a myth. Mm-hmm. But maybe not so much. And we find out as time goes by that a lot of our myths are rooted in fact. So, yeah, it could have been something like that. But I'm open to that. But need more information.
Precisely why I research myths and folklore and things like that, because there's always a tiny bit of truth in the folklore and the myth and the legends and everything. So it's just another pathway to follow, on our quest.
Sometimes it's more than a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Anything I could take out of it, I'll take.
What do you think the stick formations mean?
Well, it's got to be some form of communication. As to is it true writing? I don't know. Some people, you can actually write in symbols. Mm-hmm. The hieroglyphs of the Egyptians are an example of that. They used to have an early form of writing called Ogham.
Mm-hmm.
That was done with sticks.
The Celts did the Ogham.
Yeah. So I think that all those things are to be explored. I think there's some things are inarguable. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you find a certain type of formation, that the wind couldn't possibly.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody had to do it or something.
I have a good friend. His name's Robert Miller. He's listening to us tonight. He's in the Texas Big Thicket country right now, and he was messaging me earlier today. He went for a hike in the Big Thicket territory, and something was pacing him in the trees. When he would stop, it would stop. And he was walking on pine needles, so he knew it wasn't an echo of his own footfalls. He said he was walking fairly quietly. And when he came back down the trail, there was a tree across it.
That's textbook Bigfoot stuff.
That's what I told him.
Yeah, I've heard of that many times. I know a man who he was hunting. He had a 30-06 rifle, and something began tailing him just like that, exactly like that. He would stop and it would stop, and he would hear it stop like a half step, enough that he could hear it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he became overwhelmed with terror. Right. And he just tore out running, and he's got this rifle in his hand, but he don't even know he's got the rifle in his hand. He runs. He falls down an embankment and out into a gravel road, and a pickup truck's coming by and picks him up, and he's out of breath and he can't tell the man what he was running from or anything. And he told me that story. He just kept it to himself for years, but whatever it was, it produced an inordinate amount of terror in him.
Fight or flight response.
He couldn't function. He couldn't think to use his rifle. It's like the rifle was just secondary. It was like it wasn't anything that could help him.
Yeah, I was deer hunting one time near Eldridge, Missouri, out in the sticks, and my uncle had, I think he had about 180 acres, and it was right up against 5,000 acres of conservation land. There was nobody on it but me. And I was in a deer stand, and I got a really good look at about a 12-point buck. He was a good-sized buck. And he stepped out into the clearing, and I was like waiting for the perfect time. And I got the broadside shot. And I was using a British 303 with a soft nose, so I knew if I got the good shot, he was going down. And I hit him, and he went straight to the ground. And before I could get out of the tree stand, he popped back up and started bounding off. Well, I got over there. I got over to where he dropped and to start my track. And I found what we refer to as lung butter on the ground, so I knew I got him good. And there was large drops on the ground where he took off, so I knew I wasn't going to chase him far. So I start tracking him, and he drops down into a ravine that was pretty steep, and I wasn't going to risk jumping down it. So I had to backtrack a little ways to get into that ravine to find a shallower spot to drop down. Then I circled back to where I was. Not far from where he dropped, I found where he had bedded down in a large dead leaves deadfall, and there was enough blood there. I knew he bled out, but the deer was gone. There was no tracks. I circled out for 50 yards. I couldn't find another single drop of blood. And this was not a light deer. It was probably in the 200-pound range. So if it had been a cougar or a bear or coyotes would have destroyed it on the spot.
Right there.
Cougar would have dragged it. Bear would have dragged it. This was probably around a 200-pound deer. But it was gone. No sign of it. Never found it.
The Sasquatch figured it was a Uber food delivery.
I've read a lot of accounts where hunters have said that when they make a shot, it's almost like ringing a dinner bell.
I've heard that too.
Well, they're smart enough to know that. That's just it.
Well, there was one account that I read. This was in northern Georgia, up in the mountains, and a guy in his deer stand who had gone out with his buddies. And there was another deer stand about a quarter mile away. Well, the individual, they heard him yell and they heard a gunshot. And by the time they got down and ran down there, he was gone, but they found his rifle snapped over a tree.
Oh.
They never found him.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Davis, what about the tree knocks? Is that a form of communication, you think, used between Sasquatch?
I think so. I don't know that they all are. But, I think that at least some of them are. It seems to be that way. I've heard them myself, and they'll be like one or two. It's never been a bunch. It's always just been one or two.
One or two.
And it seems to just give some direction.
Ah, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Like a sentry checking in or something like that?
Yeah, it's kind of it's like a
code, some sort of a code.
Well, if you don't want someone else to know you're in the woods, you don't want to holler.
Yeah.
So you just wrap a tree and the odds are they won't figure out what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that being something usable, for something that wants to remain hidden.
Exactly.
If I wanted to remain hidden, you want to, the next Sasquatch up on the other ridge, you can just kind of let them know where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
without alerting the entire forest.
Yeah, one obscure knock is not going to be, everything, but they would probably know from the pitch how hard it was hit that's Harry, and this is Sam.
Yeah, I've heard that there's some of those sticks that they use are tuned. I've heard that before. Now, when I heard a wood knock at Bluff Creek, and it was just out of sight. There's a lot of undergrowth there down in the creek, and it was just out of sight through that undergrowth. But I could hear the what do you call that? The resonation of the wood.
Yeah,
it kind of had a ring. And then I got down real low, and I peered up through the brush, and I could see a figure walking along the hillside. And my friend that was with me said he could hear it mumbling, but my ears were too bad. I've had a lifetime of working around loud equipment, and I can't hear that well.
Right.
What's your take on the Sierra sounds?
I think that they're the closest thing you'll ever have. They're the Patterson film version of audio.
Yeah, well, we actually have Ron Moorhead coming on the show next week, so I'm really excited about that.
It's he lost some of his best stuff in a house fire.
That's unfortunate.
Wow.
We can only be just grateful that those people were curious enough and fearless enough to keep going up there and continue to get this audio, because it is no longer available. The Sasquatch will not cooperate.
Well, when I told you about my friend that was in the big thicket today, he described a call that he heard, he described it as almost a snort / whoop, but the way he repeated it to me on the phone when he got out of there, he made the call, and it sounded like something from the Sierra sounds, like one of the wah.
The Sierra sounds, it plays so fast.
Mm-hmm.
The actual vocalizations are so high speed that you cut it back to 50% in the speed,
mm-hmm.
and it sounds a whole lot more like language.
Well, they sent those to a Navy cryptolinguist, and he said this is a language.
Yeah, I've met him, Scott Nelson.
I would like to meet him. He's going to be at a few conferences this year I would like to get to. I'd love to meet him.
Is that the porpoise guy?
Oh, what's that?
The porpoise guy?
No, he was a Navy cryptolinguist.
Yeah, he broke codes. He broke codes for the Navy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the guy that developed the speak with the porpoise and the dolphins.
No, I know who you're talking about.
Don't remember his name, but it's.
I can't think of his name now. He's a psychologist by trade. Shucks. I tell you what, as I grow older, I find my memory fails me in many, many ways. I guess that's normal. I hope it is. But
that stuff happens, sir. That's the reason why I write things down. But the only problem is you got to remember where you put the notes.
That's right. It's just that you still have to have a memory.
Yeah. Well, I can say, sir, Mr. Davis, I'm not saying this just to be nice. I'm saying this because it's amazing. You have a lifetime of a treasure trove of information. I've watched so many. I watched your documentaries, your video footage, and your study of the Patterson Gimlet. It's just amazing. I am so grateful to have you on the show tonight. It's when you accepted my friend. Yeah, when you accepted my friend request on Facebook, I felt like I just met a major celebrity. I mean, I was telling my wife, that I just made a friend request with MK Davis. She goes, "Who?" I'm like, "Well, you don't do this, so you don't research like I do. It's a big deal to me."
Well, I've gotten to the point where I'm getting close to the maximum they let you have friends, and I get a lot of requests that are just spurious.
Yeah.
And so if you know somebody that would like to be my friend, and they've tried and I didn't answer or didn't, just tell them to try to message me or get a hold of you and let me know.
Okay.
And I'll accept their request then. You'll find that out about me, that I really appreciate support and friends.
Well, if there's anything we can do to help you, just let us know. I mean, and you are welcome on the show anytime, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Well, I know it's you're on Georgia time, aren't you?
I'm Central Time.
You're in Central Time. Okay. I didn't want to keep you up too late. We tend to go pretty late, so you're welcome to stay as long as you want to stay. But I don't want to make you stay up past your bedtime. So
I'm the only one on the East Coast.
You're on the East Coast, Nick.
It's almost 12 midnight.
That's another thing that happens when you get older. It's Betty by time.
I spent so many years working the graveyard shift, my body just naturally wants to be up at night now. So I tend to forget that other people want to go to bed, as my grandma used to say, with the chickens.
I worked shift work for many, many, many years. We rotated. But I have left here from where I am here in Mississippi, and in 27 hours would be in Death Valley.
That's a heck of a drive.
Yes, and I can't do that anymore.
I've driven right past your neighborhood when we would go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on vacation.
Yeah, stop by.
I would love to. Well, we'll head over to a Cracker Barrel. I stopped at a Cracker Barrel there in Memphis, not Memphis, in Mississippi. No, it was in Georgia. And here in Missouri, it's hit or miss if a restaurant's got sweet tea, and I love sweet tea. So I asked the waitress, I said, "Ma'am, do y'all have sweet tea?" And she looks at me and she put her hand on my forearm. She goes, honey, it don't come any other way.
Yeah, that's right. Except that when you get older and you get a little diabetic, you start asking for unsweetened or either half and half.
Yeah.
That's where people don't last forever.
Unfortunately,
that's the saddest thing. And so more and more as time goes by, as the people that have carried the weight in the Bigfoot community, and they begin to fall by the wayside, and other people move in, and so another generation takes over. What I do appreciate about the generation that we're in right now is that, like my WordPress site, I can leave some of it as a legacy.
Absolutely.
And people can build on it.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 65, but I've had a few health issues. I had a heart attack, and then I've got some heart problems ongoing. So, we're not here forever. That's the thing. So you do what you can do with what you have to do with now, because tomorrow's not guaranteed.
That's a fact.
Guaranteed. Nope.
I will try to carry the torch as long as I can. I'm just a few weeks away from turning 51. So I want to keep researching and keep learning everything I can learn, and hopefully share that through not just my books, but through interactions and shows like this.
Well, you're in a good spot, actually. It's a good time to be 51. 51 is you've got maturity, but you haven't run out of gas. So,
Well, I hope I never do run out of gas.
It's a good spot to be in. When I was 51, that's where I was at. Some of my best work was at 51.
Look at Roger. He's 39. Oh, 32? Okay.
He'll take it.
Except he lost his hair, or you just.
I don't mind. I don't mind 65. Really, I don't.
Well, you don't look it, sir.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've tried to keep age, old man time, old Chronos from overtaking me. But ultimately, I know where it all ends. So I want to make sure people have a good, solid foundation for some of this stuff. Right here is hard to come by. It's hard fought for.
Yeah.
And you want that stuff to be. You don't want other people to have to just go back through those things again. And I probably need to write down some of it as an account. My meeting with Miss Patterson definitely needs to be written down. And some of my trips to Bluff Creek, the experiences there, which I've never been disappointed at Bluff Creek. It's always something happens.
Something you might want to consider is just doing video blogs. Just sit down and turn your camera on, talk about the incident just like you're telling a story around a campfire, and put it on your website. I think people would love those.
That might be a good way of doing it.
I would watch them.
Yeah, it's the thing about it is because as you get older, you begin to realize that it could get away from you.
Mm-hmm.
You could live your life without ever doing what you intended to do.
I feel like as a writer that I'm doing what I was meant to do. I spent years in law enforcement until my back gave out. I've got severe stenosis of the spine, and there may be wheels in my not so distant future. But my mind is crystal clear, and I want to still do what I'm passionate about, and that's write and investigate things like this. I absolutely have a thirst for learning about it.
Have you ever had any kind of vivid dreams?
Yes, I have. My son, he has a word for it. I can't remember what he called it, but I get very vivid dreams a lot of times.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the Hindu word called Nabi. It's Nabhi. In Nabi, they say that the spine is an antenna.
Mm-hmm.
And that the spine can actually receive information from a larger, more broader source. And that people who have injured their spines oftentimes will have those vivid dreams, information come in prodigious amounts, but unevenly.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes them to have vivid dreams. Or even innate abilities. Sometimes people are like dive into a pool and break their neck,
mm-hmm.
and they wake up from their coma and they can play music, and they never played music before. That's the whole concept of the Nabi is that the spine can receive information.
That actually kind of explains what happened to me. Before I wrote the Ragnarok Rising saga, which was a zombie series with a Norse twist. I wrote that. I started back in 2012, and I finished it in roughly 2016. It was now a 10-book series. I wrote that, and those were spaced out. I wrote them just when I could sit down and write. But after my injury, I can sit down and do 10,000 words at a setting. I can do a 75,000 word book in a month.
Well, that may be explainable by that. You can look it up, Google it, and see what you think. NABHI.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up. I'm going to read about it after the show.
Yeah,
add that to my reading list.
A lot of times we tend to dismiss those things as just mystical or esoterical, but sometimes they're based in actual occurrences, in fact. And so, I've tried to pay attention ever since I first learned about it. That when someone has hurt their spine, I usually will ask them, and have you had any of this, experienced any of this? And oftentimes they tell me, like you did, that they have.
Yeah, my son refers to it as lucid dreaming. I just remembered the term, but yeah, I get it's fairly regular for me. In fact, for a while, I was keeping a dream journal. I'd wake up and it'd still be clear in my mind. I'd make notes about it, but I get vivid dreams all the time. Have for the last year or so.
Yeah, well, you don't want to get hurt just to have vivid dreams.
No, definitely not.
If somebody has injured their spine through other means, and then they suddenly have something improved about their mental abilities or talents,
Mm-hmm.
I always want to know if I can. I think that's real fascinating.
Nick, I think Sergio's got a question for you. He says, "What's your favorite myth?"
Oh, my favorite myth would be the Thunderbirds.
Oh, those are good. That's interesting.
Texas, and all the different Indian tribes. And the funny thing about the Thunderbirds is we, being white men, kind of fear it, but the Indians look upon it as a protector from the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just, they don't fear it at all. They look at it as a good omen. And the Thunderbird myth just goes really super deep. And that's definitely my favorite myth.
I went into a cave in Idaho, and way back in a crawl space, there was this giant bird skeleton. And I take it to be an ostrich. What I don't know.
In Idaho?
Yeah, it's in Idaho.
Oh, wow.
There were no feathers associated with it, but its bones, like the leg bones, would be this big around. It'd be huge.
That's a big bird.
It was. I regret not pulling it out of there. I can't see an ostrich waddling its way back up in that tight crawl space like that.
That's really, really bizarre to find back there.
Well, I figured maybe it was just somebody's ostrich that got loose or something like that. That's kind of my thoughts. But
something dragged it back there and ate it.
Well, it left no feathers. There were no feathers, and I know in a cave environment, feathers will last a long time.
That is kind of bizarre.
Yeah, there were no feathers and no meat on the bones.
Sergio says, "Have you ever tried setting up a rig that would mimic that wood sound out in the field to see if you could get a response?" Yeah, if you recorded the wood on wood tone with a synthesizer, you could adjust the tone and pitch and duration. You could make all kinds of different sounds with it. I wonder if that would work.
I'm sure that's it'd be a good project to do.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I wouldn't mind trying that. I don't really do the calls. I see that on TV and people doing out there making Bigfoot calls. As I have the sneaking suspicion that you don't know what you're saying. You might be making a challenge. You might have called his mother ugly. You might even asked him out on a date. And I don't particularly have a plan for an amorous Bigfoot coming charging out of the woods.
I can tell you some stories about playing back Bigfoot recordings.
Really?
Yeah, that caused a whole bunch of stuff to happen. But it's just too much to get into tonight, but maybe for another time.
Oh, you are welcome back anytime. We'd love to have you back.
It definitely got responses.
Yeah. When I was up in Washington State with a little group that we were trying to find Sasquatch footprints or hair or anything like that, there was another group that we came upon. They had taken the head off of an axe handle, and they were just using the wood itself, and they were banging on the trees over there, and they actually got a response, a double response to their double response. And they kept doing it, and they were laughing. They thought it was funny. I don't think they were researchers. They were just goofing around. It started to get closer and closer and closer. We took off after that. But, I mean, we're talking about, you can hear it possibly judged, say, maybe a half a mile away. And then at one point, it seemed more like just a football field away. Now, that's a little scary at that point. You know, why is it coming closer and closer?
In the mountain above the Patterson film site, you know, it's a very steep slope, and about maybe 1,000 yards, 1,000 feet up, there was a game trail that went along, you know, horizontally along the side of the hill.
The ridge line?
Yeah, in that game trail was a stick that was put into the earth. I don't know whether a hole was dug for it or whether it was jammed, but it was a no bark on it. It was for all intents and purposes a tree knock stick, you know. And now you guys got me wondering if they don't make them with different tunes for different places.
See, this is a possibility now, definitely a different possibility. And what you were saying about the different tunes and everything, how they might possibly communicate and, you know, identify each other.
And a different hardwood will make a different tone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Now, do you recall how thick around that piece of wood was?
Maybe about 2 inches.
And it's full of bark, huh?
Yeah, it may have been. It was probably bigger than 2, maybe 2.5 to 3.
Still a good sized piece of wood.
A good sized piece of wood, and it was dense. You know, it would ring if you hit something with it.
Kind of like a ball bat.
Yeah, because I remember when that thing hit the tree, it had a resonation to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the figure of it, you know, through the brush. And it was right there, real close to the Patterson film site.
Well, that whole area has a rich history of sightings.
I found a rock stack at the same day, down in the bed of the creek. There was 3 rocks, one on top of the other, and the top one had a wet print with sand on top of it. So I know how fresh it was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really fresh sign down there. Like I said, it never fails to disappoint. It's still a really hot place to go.
I have I guess a little question here for you that comes up on questioning when I'm on different podcasts. They would ask me, and I tell people not to do this, but gift giving. We recently had a lady that was putting out apples on a stump, a tree stump that had been cut down years ago
on her own property.
Yeah, on her own property, and the apples were taken. Sometimes she would find a rock in their place. She'd find a leaf. Unfortunately for her, Mr. Davis, she had to go care for her parents, and she wasn't able to leave the apples every day like she was doing. And something had started to happen around her household. The outside area that she had a wooden fenced-in area where she put her garbage cans, and over the top was a fence, like a metal fence grating right over the top, to keep raccoons out.
Yeah.
And because she was away for like 4 or 5 days, this whole thing was torn apart. I mean, there was nothing in the garbage cans, but it was torn apart. You give any credence to that? You know, like people.
Yes, I do. Yes,
I.
I've seen examples of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You don't. You know, it's a lot of good reasoning. You don't want them on your property.
No.
Believe me. Because it's not because of what you do. It's because of what they do. They're obsessive compulsive. If you get them started, you can't get them stopped.
Yeah, they expect something. It looks like.
Right. It has to with expectations and provocative behavior.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you said that because she had been doing that for over 6 months, and she reported to my group that she was having a dog man problem, and she was so uptight that she wouldn't even leave her house to go to work. We had to go there, and we finally got there a little after 1 in the morning, and I'll tell you, our experience wasn't a fun experience. And she told us later on that she had been doing with the apples, and she had to stop. And that was I wish she would have told us because it was a dangerous situation.
It can be bad, and even if nobody gets hurt out of it, you end up being consumed by their behavior. You know, you can't have a normal life when you go out in your yard. You're having to check your yard out to see what's been done. You know, to get to once they get attention, they crave it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you said that. That's information I really needed.
Yeah. I've been in contact with a Bigfoot group in northern Arkansas, and here's a couple of the images they sent me that they found. They said that they left some apples on a tree stump. This is out in the middle of the woods, not near their house. And they came back later and found mice wrapped in leaves.
Wow. Well, it's a cinch that that's a cairn.
I gotta give you some information that I have on that. There's a gentleman whose name escapes me right now, but he does that. He does that for artwork in the forest area. Who puts up rocks, and it does. I mean, he knows how to put them in a certain way, and the formations are like art. So I'm just wondering if that's something that he may have done.
If he's been in northern Arkansas,
people will do it. I mean, people certainly can do it, and they will do it. Out in Death Valley, you see quite a few cairns. You know, people stack rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also known that Bigfoot does it too.
This was a petroglyph they found on a bluff side.
Wow! Look at that.
Wow!
Look at that. That is something.
How about that? Is that in Arkansas?
That's in Arkansas.
How large an area you think that covered?
They didn't put anything in for reference, and I didn't ask. But if you get the banner out of there real quick.
If I had to guess, I would say
take that banner out of there real fast. I got to find it.
4 acres, maybe. No.
There we go. Thanks, Roger. It's in the deep woods where they go out and research. But if you look at the size of the feet on the drawing and the size of the guy with the bow next to him.
And look here, that's the tight feet I said belong to
the splayed toes. Yeah,
the splayed toes with they're saucy. I call them sausage toes. They're long toes. That would be like a true Bigfoot, you know.
It's massive compared to the others.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
King something. Of the forest.
I can send you that image if you like, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, please do.
I have to say, gentlemen, I've done a lot of research over my couple of decades worth of cryptozoology stuff, but I've learned a ton of stuff from you, Mr. Davis, and you've also sparked some other ideas, that came forward through this conversation. A lot of information, and that Ghibli film showing the eye shine. I mean, that's nothing I thought about before. That is totally amazing.
Yeah, it definitely has eye shine in the Patterson film. So, I mean, you know, you're not looking at a regular person. You know, just that alone.
Yeah, if that's some big guy dressed up in a uniform. That's pretty convincing to have the eye shine, which we can't duplicate. You know,
Roger, did you say you had some pictures that you'd found? You're muted, Raj. We can't hear you.
you're muted. Yep.
Yeah, this is when you guys were talking about the location, or when Mr. Davis said what it was like right by the shooting site. And this is an aerial view, I would imagine, just north of, as Mr. Davis was talking about that. Is that correct, Mr. Davis? Is that what it looks like, that area?
Hold on here. I've lost you here. I've lost the image. Let's see here. I don't know how to get back to it. I think I see it. Hold on. Nope. You're in the background now. All right, let me go up top.
Looks
I think
like
your image is froze up.
You're not showing up in here.
On this image, it gives the GPS location, more or less. There's actually a trail that you can follow up there. There's quite a bit if you do a search on Google. There is a trail, which is kind of cool, I suppose.
Roger, can you give me 2 minutes? I've got to run across the hall to the restroom.
We got you covered.
All right. Let's see here.
Roger, that was Arkansas that you were showing?
No, that was the site of the Patterson Gimlin film.
Oh, that was the site. Okay.
Well, at least it's what Mr. Davis had mentioned, that north of that area, there's a high incline.
Did we lose Mr. Davis? Oh, there.
All right. I had to go back through the whole 9 yards to get you back.
That phone must be overheating.
It's an old phone.
The image that I have is something I found. Is that what it looks like just north of the filming site of Patterson Gimlin?
The one you're looking at?
Yes.
I can't really tell. You know, it's real rugged country, but I really can't tell looking at that where it's at.
Fair enough. There were images on Google which give an idea of how rugged it is, and when you mentioned that just north of it there's a slope, I went looking and I found those images right there.
Yeah, it's really rugged, and up above, up behind the site, behind the film site, it's pretty much about 45-degree angle straight up, and you go up about 1,500 feet, and you run into culverts. And these are the culverts, I assume, that were mentioned in some of the experiences where they're logging the Bigfoot through the culverts down the mountainside when they were constructing those roads. These are on the side of the mountain, and they're wrapped around trees and stuff. And then you go up above that, and then there's an old logging road. And then above that, you run into a stream and waterfalls and all kinds of stuff up that way. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's just really, really rugged country.
I've got a friend that lives up in Humboldt, and he said probably in July He's going to be taking several friends and making an expedition up in that area, and he's going to try to live stream it for me if he can get a signal.
There ain't much signal there. I've gotten a signal on the ridge tops, but down in the creek bed is not much of anything.
Yeah, he said if nothing else, he's just going to shoot a bunch of videos and send them to me of that area. So hopefully, sometime in July, we'll have some recent footage from the area.
Yeah, well, when I go back, I'll take some more myself. I'll be glad to share them with you.
That would be awesome.
I took some video one time. It's 2008, and we had been up there to that same area where those culverts were, and I had Don Monroe with me and a friend of his, the gentleman we call Bear, and their feet were hurting, and so I left them, and I came on down the mountain ahead of them, and I got down in the creek and across the creek, and I came down a trail on the other side and came back out in the creek, and I was going to film them when they came down, and just for filming, and 7 years later I was looking at that video and there was a Bigfoot in it. I saw a white thing move, and I backed it up and I did a frame by frame, and it was a Bigfoot sitting in the shadows with some kind of white cloth, and I assume it must have been something the firefighters left there, and it was the worst, most anticlimactic thing I ever watched in my life, because I'd had this thing for 7 years.
Never knew it was there.
Never knew it was there. And I watched the video, and I heard two rocks clack together, and you could hear that over the sound of the water, in the creek.
Yeah.
And when the rocks clacked, this thing backed up into the brush and just became invisible. And I walked right in front of it, waiting on Don. I walked down, and then I walked back beside it. It never moved, never budged.
That was what I was told when I was a little kid learning to deer hunt, is that be still, be quiet and be still. And movement is what gives you away. And he said it doesn't matter if you're wearing hunter's orange, if you are still and making no noise, the deer will still come. And that was the hardest thing for me to learn as a fidgety little idiot kid, was how to sit still, control my breathing, and not move.
I felt like the worst Bigfoot researcher in the whole world.
But the important thing is you did find it.
Well, I guess so. But, it was carrying, it had 2 sticks with it. And I got to looking at the sticks. I took some pretty good video and stills, but it was always in the edge because I was aiming down the creek.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked to me like it was wrapped with cord. The sticks like a salmon harpoon.
Mm-hmm.
They wrap it in cord and they stick the salmon and they pull the whole thing up with a cord.
Right.
And that's what it looked. And there's no salmon in Bluff Creek.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to have come up from the Klamath River, which is Bluff Creek runs into the Klamath River, and they have big salmon runs down there.
Right. That if that's the prize time for bear to, put on their winter weight, and same thing logic would go for Bigfoot. That would be just a bonanza of food.
Yeah. Well, it's you can probably find that in some of I probably have some stuff on the Davis report about it. I don't, you'd have to look for it, but I call it the Croucher. because it was crouching down by the creek. But it was slick as a whistle. It just backed into the brush, and apparently there was another one there, because I heard a rock clack on the video. I didn't pay any attention to it live. This was 2008, and there was so much sign. I mean, we found tracks. I mean, they were just in there, you know.
Well, Mr. Davis, you shouldn't feel too bad, because it's not the first time that I've heard that a Sasquatch or maybe a dogman has photobombed somebody's pictures, that they've taken of an area, and then they go back and look at it, and they're like, hey, what's that over there? I mean, just recently, a friend of mine, Greg Yost, he's a Sasquatch guy, and he was taking a picture of a forest area, and he didn't notice it for weeks, and somebody said, hey, look, there's a dog man right there, and he was just taking a picture of the forest area because it was such a lovely area.
Mr. Davis, do you mind telling us a little bit about this footage?
Oh yeah, what's that?
That's some footage that came out of Georgia. You know who? Kids took that footage.
Really?
Yeah, they took it out of the window of their house.
Wow.
That one's pretty grainy.
I'd like to see you do your magic on that one. That would be pretty good.
Well, they're none of them as good as the Patterson film so far, but that I believe that probably was something. I'm thinking about that incident down in Bluff Creek now. I have lots of regrets about that,
I was hoping I could find it. I've been scrolling down through your page. Bigfoot in Death Valley. This one's from East Texas. Well, you've collected a lot of video.
You can find some of it on YouTube. Probably just type in MK Davis, the Croucher.
I will try that right now.
Yeah, you might find it there. I hope you can. You see what I'm talking about. That's bothered me ever since. I kind of regret even looking at, finding it now, because, I think about it all the time, how close I was.
See if I can find a different view.
The Bluff Creek Croucher video, what is in the cloth? Okay, I found that one pretty quick. That should show you something.
Hello, I'm MK Davis. Just at a time in 9 and when it, and I thought.
Well, that's not really showing it actually running the film. It's just a still. Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
What do you think? What do you think it is? Tugs at your pre-knock, or sounds like it, rocks together. It sort of sounds. Let's listen.
Wow. It's called the Bluff Creek Croucher video. What is in the cloth?
Stuff from down on Bluff Creek, the back.
I done got upset about it. You can see him down at the bottom down there with that white cloth or whatever it is. If you let it run, it'll actually play the video.
Okay.
That's a still image. It's got something it's wrapping up in that cloth. I don't know what it is. You can see a little shape there.
Yeah. Yeah, you see the movement. It's probably using that cloth for the what would you call that homemade satchel? I don't remember what you called it.
A parfletch, yeah.
Parfletch. You might have been using it for that.
It might have. It could have had a fish. It could have had a little Sasquatch. It could have had anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there I am standing there. I don't even see it. I'm looking at my little viewfinder, you know.
Well, don't feel too bad because something very similar happened to me. About 18 months ago, my friend Steve, my partner in crime, he's my best friend, we went down to a spot here in Missouri called the Joe Bald Recreation Area. It used to be an Army Corps of Engineers campground that they shut off. They shut it down, won't let anybody camp there about 20 years ago, maybe a little over 20 years ago. They won't allow anybody in there after dark. Well, I wanted to set a book there. So Steve and I decided we were going to go down there one night, and we snuck in when it was dark. And we shot a video, and it was just a couple minutes long. It was just me talking about the Joe Bald area and how I wanted to, was researching areas for future books. And it was researching an area for the book I called Lakeview Man. And when we recorded the video, we didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. We got in the van and we went into Branson and had dinner. I mean, his wife, me, my wife, him, and his wife. All four of us were down there in our van. And none of us saw or heard anything, didn't feel anything out of place. And we went on our merry way. Well, I go to upload the video to YouTube for my YouTube channel, and I start seeing eye shine in the background. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't notice that. I thought, well, yeah, it's probably just an owl or something like that. That it wasn't anything worth really paying attention to. Flash forward to what, 4 or 5 months ago, Roger? We brought the video up on an episode of The Nightmare Hunter. We just were going to talk about the Joe Bald area because it was featured in one of my books. And one of the viewers, who's also a friend of Roger's, his name is Thomas Whitney. He said, "Hang on, I saw movement." And I was like, "Oh, no, there's nothing there." And he goes, "No, I'm telling you, behind one of the trees, I saw movement." So a couple friends of mine that do video editing isolated that area, and they slowed it down. And I'll play the slowed down portion of the video, and you'll probably see the move. Well, the movement's almost dead center in the frame in a tree, about 30 yards, maybe 25 yards from where we were shooting the video. And it was nothing. It was no video. We didn't go down there looking for Bigfoot. We just went down there to shoot a goofy video for my YouTube channel to promote my books. Well, the guys started isolating images from that, and the first thing that I saw was just looked like a shape. Kind of poking out from behind one of the trees. And they tried to clear it up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, kid, just probably pareidolia or a bush or something. Then they brought it out a little bit more, and then they brought that out. And I was like, holy crap. We went back to the spot. There's nothing there that could have been. It was something sticking out behind the tree about 8 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And there you can see a hand as well.
Man. Yeah, I see it.
Are you going to tell the rest of the story? Because, Mr. Davis, I get a lot of mileage out of this other part of the story.
He loves the bit. Before we started shooting the video, we pulled in and we were talking. We were looking around. We hadn't shot the video yet. The whole video in its entirety is on my Ozarks Haunted Pathways trail. It's just called the Joe Bald Recreation Area, and it's just me talking about the area. But before we shot the video, Steve says, I've got to take a leak. So he walked almost over to that spot to pee before he came back over to film the video. And then we filmed the video, and that's in it.
And Mr. Davis, I say that his friend is marking territory, and that's what, cryptids and animals usually do. And he probably ticked them off quite a bit.
Steve's pee may have brought it in.
Maybe so. If you look on my channel there, under MK Davis discusses frame 362 of the Patterson film, that's the one with the eye glow, the filtered image.
Okay. On your YouTube channel?
Hello, I'm MK Davis.
Yeah, on my YouTube channel.
What's the YouTube channel? Is that Green Wave 2010?
Yeah. Or you can probably just type it in under that.
Okay.
MK Davis discusses frame 362. That will have you will see the eye shine. Let's see where it is.
That's a big cottonmouth.
At 5:15. Well, around 5:15. Oh yeah.
I'm looking for the one that says discusses that particular frame.
That's pretty.
It's a lot of videos on here. How far down is it on the page? Do you know?
Oh no, I just typed in MK Davis discusses frame 362. That's all you got to type in. It'll go to it.
362.
Yeah, I see somebody else has uploaded a video to my channel. I don't know how that happened.
Okay, let me share the screen. I've got that video up.
Yeah, go to I think it's 421. Go to 421. I zoom in on it.
Look at these eyes. Look at those eyes.
If you look, you see that eye, it's glowing.
Yes, sir.
You know,
that's not something a human can fake.
No.
Yeah, as much analysis as you've done of this, and just the stuff you showed us tonight, I was already convinced. But I can't see how somebody could still be skeptical after looking at all the things you found.
Well, you have to be a flaming skeptic.
Yeah, don't believe anything or anyone.
Uploaded 1 month ago, MK Davis discusses the Patterson film frame 352. That's not my work. It's the Bigfoot Project. I don't even know who that is.
How did it get put on your channel?
Well, maybe it's not on my channel. Maybe it just came up in the list after I typed in MK Davis discusses.
It may have.
Anyway, I didn't put it up there. Oh, somebody's got a lot of my stuff up there. I don't care. It's I'm pretty generous with my stuff. I don't like people to use it, in some negative fashion. But
Do
if somebody,
you mind if we use your footage from time to time from your YouTube
no,
channel?
no, I don't mind a bit.
Okay. Well, I may be pulling some of that up from time to time then.
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
you've got such great footage.
It all started with a huge effort to find the best images. I told y'all when I saw a couple of frames that were really good, and I traveled to Oregon and made all those contacts, and I got frames from people who had close connections with the original. So having quality stuff to work with has a lot to do with that. And
it certainly shows.
Yeah,
these are some of the best views of the Patterson Gimlin film that I've ever seen. The ones I've always seen were ones that have been shown on TV and were really, really grainy. These are much clearer.
Yeah, they're good. It's good stuff. And it really I want it to serve as it's kind of something that someone could launch another person into this,
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how it would easily.
Yeah. The more people you got working on the problem, the more likely to get it solved. Well, I tell you what, I'm fixing to have to turn in.
Well, I know it's getting pretty late.
Yeah, I'm going to have nightmares about that darn thing. Down there with that white claw. Son of a gun. He slipped by me. Slipped by me.
Well, we all miss stuff. I certainly did.
I don't know what I'd have done if I had seen it. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's best you didn't because you were pretty close.
Yeah, I was real close. I got within about 15 feet of it.
Yeah, if you had seen it and brought attention to the fact that you knew it was there, it might have turned violent.
Maybe so.
Maybe it's for the best you didn't see it.
I might be a part of Bluff Creek right now.
Or one of the missing 411 cases.
That's right, Ben David. You don't want to end up in one of his books.
No, definitely not. I would love to meet David, but I'm a big fan of his work.
Oh,
and I'm a big fan of yours.
He's a heck of a nice fella. He's a ex-policeman.
Mm-hmm.
And he attacks every problem in a very prescribed way, like the police do.
Mm-hmm.
If I had done something wrong and had David Pilates after me, I would go ahead and turn myself in.
He's the Sherlock Holmes of our day. Yeah. Some of the stuff he's found is just astounding.
Yeah,
and to look at the hot spots on the map that he's got, like, hey, some of those aren't too far from here.
No, he's got he's broadened out and he covers a good part of the world even, and then you don't want to be the one to represent your state.
No, I'll pass on that. Although I said it does seem to have a tendency to abduct the ones that are either very young or old and injured. So it might be me that he goes after.
Well, maybe so. I was going to say something else. I can't think of what it is. I got too tired to even think.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, and I'm sorry we kept you up past your bedtime, but I really,
that's all right.
Grateful to have you on the show.
I'm good.
Thank you, sir. Definitely.
I'm good. I'd love to come back on again if you.
Oh, you are welcome anytime. I would love to have you back on. I'd like to hear about what you were gonna tell us about the people getting responses from calls.
Oh yeah. There are certain calls that actually absolutely means something to them.
Well, there's the one that sounds kind of like a siren that I'm pretty sure is a territorial challenge.
Maybe so. I don't know, but I wouldn't play this other one I'm talking about again.
Do you have a copy of it?
I do.
I would love to have those sounds. I'm not going to go out and play them in the woods. I'm not an idiot, but I would like to hear them.
Well,
I'd like to go out there with a full team and two teams and play those sounds.
Don't play them near your house. Is all I can say.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Well,
Play
if
it at my next neighbor's house, who I don't like.
Well, there you go.
If you don't mind, I'd love to have a copy of those, and you are welcome back. I will get in touch with you probably in a week or so, and we'll see about getting you on the show again, and we can talk about those calls and look at more footage and just astound everybody. I mean, I thought I knew the Patterson Gimlin footage pretty well until I started looking at what you've done, and the stuff you've talked about tonight is just incredible. And I am so grateful you came on the show, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sir.
And, we'll see you next time, and I'll get you a copy of that audio.
I would love to hear it. Thank you, sir.
All right.
You have a great night.
Good
Y'all
night,
take care.
Freeze frame. There we go. DA, I'm going to tell you, man, I've studied a lot about that over the decades, and I learned at least, let me see, I'm taking notes, at least 6-7 different things. Wow.
Yeah, I knew when it comes to the Patterson Gimlin footage, MK is probably the authority I would go to. If he says it's in there, it's in there.
You know, I never really thought about looking at the eye shine in that film, and that eye shine is definitely there. There's no faking that.
Well, if you go to his website that he was telling us about, the Davis report, if you go to his website on that, or you go to his YouTube channel, you could watch videos for days. There's just tons of videos, and not all of it's Bigfoot. Some of it's other cryptids. Some of it's like the thylacine. But he has got an amazing array of videos he's analyzed.
Oh God, that thylacine or something. What was that, from 1936 or something?
I think it was someone back around then.
I remember seeing something about that.
They thought they were extinct for, I think, somewhere close to 100 years, but there's a lot of people looking for them, and there are reports all the time of people seeing them.
And mind you, in 1936, they couldn't do CGI or anything like that.
Right.
You know? Oh, my God, look at the mouth on that thing and that thin snake-like tongue, and woo! That's amazing. I wonder, I got to look that back up and see where that was. I think that was in Thailand or something, or...
What, the thylacine? No, it was.
I thought it was in Tasmania.
Yeah, either Australia or Tasmania.
Australia or Tasmania?
Yeah, I thought it
Probably
was
Tasmania.
That's an amazing looking animal. Wow.
Roger Peacock says that film is the best evidence I've ever seen, and MK's work cleaning it up was amazing. Yeah, he's done some fantastic work, and I'll tell you, I'm just astounded that he came on the show. I mean, he's kind of a
catch.
Yeah, he's kind of a big deal to me. I mean, I've been looking at his work for years.
I mean, that people are saying, oh, it's a costume, but what did they do? Put a little flashlight in there for the eye shine? I doubt if they would have thought about that.
Or the details of breast. It's in breastfeeding.
It was actually different times going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the braid and the little strap for what. Yeah, it's stuff I'd never even knew. My mind is officially blown.
I mean, that parfletch thing that they carry stuff in, that's showing higher intelligence to be able to do something like that. And like I said at the beginning of this, I believe the reason why we don't see them that much is because they usually are not out during the daytime and they're out at nighttime, which forest is their area, not ours, especially with the heightened senses that they have. I mean, just the eye shine alone shows you they've got heightened vision, over what we have.
I may have to see if we can book him again for June.
Amazing. You got to let me know. I got to be on.
Oh, definitely.
I'll have some more questions for him. I mean, I was quite familiar with it, but I learned a bunch, and I hope I was able to donate something to this because it was.
Oh, definitely.
That was some amazing footage.
You had a lot of good questions for him. That was awesome.
I loved it. That was great.
Roger, you haven't said much tonight.
Well, I want to thank everyone that's given us likes tonight. I have quite an extensive list. Quite a few people, actually. Thomas Whitney, Robert Miller, Roger Peacock, Adam Shepard, Joshua Dalton, Jacob Hayes, Tony Konopka, Richard Sullivan, someone by the name of D.A. Roberts.
Somebody on my page.
I'm sure it was.
It wasn't me. Jones. I was astounded to see the comment from my page.
I'm glad. Hey,
did you see the look on my face when you posted up? Like, wait a minute, how did that get up there?
I kept drinking to them all night.
Yeah. Josh Jones, Kerry Gregory, Derek Lacombe, Sergio Lomelli, Cindy Jean-Pierre, Luis Noriega, and Todd Hunter. And ungodly amounts of comments. Incredible questions from everyone in the chat room.
I wonder if that wasn't the general, because he's an admin on my author page. He might have been viewing from my author page.
It's possible. Mr. Dalton also did give us a like. So
the syntax kind of looks like Josh.
It could have been because he did a whole bunch of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. Roberts, Tower Media, and Josh Jones are all in sequence. Not that I'm paying attention.
Gentleman that you were talking about, D.A. Pilates?
David Pilates. He does a series called Missing 411, and it's called the Can-Am Project. He's a former, I think he was a San Francisco detective who started looking into the disappearances in national parks, and his work is amazing. And my favorite of his, a lot of these videos, he makes a lot of videos. You can see him on Amazon Prime. Missing 411, The Hunters. Though that one really creeps me up because these are experienced outdoorsmen who were armed that went missing completely, never found.
Now that I think back, I've seen some of his YouTube stuff on missing hunters, and I just can't understand how they could be missing. Absolutely can't. I mean, especially from the background of some of these people, It's amazing. So you'd want to get him on the show? I can try to take a shot at that.
If we could get David Pilates on the show, I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah? All right. I'll see what I can do.
That would be outstanding.
That'd be fantastic. I mean, this is
the last time I listened to him on a show, he does do shows, but the last one I listened to him was Coast to Coast with George Norrie. He was on there.
I mean, tonight's show was fantastic. That's a grab. That's a find. Unbelievable.
Well, next week we've got Ron Moorhead, who recorded the Sierra Sounds.
Oh, that should be interesting too then.
He'll be on Tuesday night next week because Roger's busy on Monday. So the Nightmare Hunter will be on Tuesday next week. Robert Miller says, don't you think they had ape-like intelligence that then can mimic humans as well, especially how folks are carrying satchels, packs, persons? Well, I looked up that parfletch, and apparently Native Americans have been making those for time immemorial. I mean, since way back in the day. So it's could have been something they picked up from the Native Americans, or that it's a primitive skill. I mean, it's not a complicated thing. It looks like really all you would need is basically a braided piece of string and a piece of cloth, and you could make one.
I mean, I think it's beyond ape-like intelligence. I mean, I think it's just a couple of steps beyond.
I waffled back and forth throughout my time investigating Bigfoot. I waffled back and forth between it being just an upright ape or it being a relic hominid. And after having MK on and him talking about stuff, I'm definitely leaning strongly toward the relic hominid because some of the tool use, the intelligence, and I'm not going to rule out mind speak. I personally, though, think that what they referred to as the cloaking ability, I think that's more just natural camouflage. A person that knows what they're doing with camouflage can disappear before your eyes. And that doesn't take any magic or special abilities. Todd Hunter says, plus he has 3 books on Bigfoot. Yeah, David Pilates researched Bigfoot hot and heavy. And in his Missing 411 books, he never comes out and says Bigfoot or Dogman. but you kind of get that that's what he's leaning at.
Yeah.
Robert Miller says, and mimic that. Yeah, I could easily see them observing people and mimicking what we do. There's probably
Robert's
a
in
Sasquatch.
Texas right now, right?
Yeah, he's in the big thicket area of Texas.
Well,
I can actually envision a Sasquatch walking around with a piece of bark made to a square, walking around like he's playing on his cell phone.
who knows? Maybe Robert will be able to join us next time
That would be
and
awesome.
tell us what happened.
Well, he sent me a bunch of pictures and some videos that if he wants to come on the show and tell about what he heard down there, because he heard a vocalization and he was paced in the woods, and I said he kind of got the feeling he wasn't supposed to be there, but he was going to be there regardless because he doesn't really back down from much. But he sent me some really good pictures and a bunch of videos. So Robert, if you're still listening, I want to get you on the show when you can and talk about that, because I think you had a legitimate encounter, dude. Roger Peacock says some tribes claim they learned from Sasquatch, which is possible. And then Louis says if it was a movie back in the early 80s called The Emerald Forest, and they talked about the invisible people, that was a tribe of Indians in Amazon, and says they knew how to camouflage. Yeah, if you live in an environment and you don't want to be found, you are going to develop natural camouflage. I mean, and a lot of it, like I said, is just learning how to not move, how to stand stock still in the right places.
Right.
Movement. Every time I've ever gotten a deer, it was the movement that gave it away. Robert says, I can't remember which tribe, but said they were a people, not apes. Several tribes said that they were just another tribe of creatures, and quite a few tribes will say, hey, they live on these mountains, don't go up there.
You don't want to be a wolf, no.
Right. And then Robert Miller says, still in Texas. Robert, when you're back home, I want to get you on the show, and we want to talk about that. We'll put your videos up, and we'll do it up right. And I want to definitely get you on the show, because I think even MK thought what you were hitting was typical Bigfoot behavior. Todd Hunter says most Native or First Nations claim they are a separate tribe. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that in many accounts.
There's a consistency in all Indian or First tribes. They all talk about an entity or whatever you want to call it, and it's similar, and it's from one continent to another, and it's less so maybe in Africa and Central America and South America, but in the northern climes, it's amazing, really.
Yeah. Well, they've got them in Australia as well. And the Australian Aborigines tell them similar stories.
Right.
Which we will be getting to soon enough, yes. Actually, we're probably a few episodes away from that as we continue our trek around the world, covering the cryptids of the world. It's interesting how you guys pronounce...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I said I should have brought up the fact that MK is a huge Star Trek fan.
Looks like it.
Just a little bit.
I forgot to bring those up, and we just got so engrossed in his stories and what he was talking about. I'm telling you, I learned so much tonight, and
Unbelievable.
I'm just humbled that he was on. It was amazing. Folks, if you just tuned in, unfortunately you missed MK Davis, but go ahead and hit that subscribe and like button, and let us know what you're thinking, and we'll hopefully be bringing a lot more of this content to you in the future. Next Tuesday night joining us will be Ron Moorhead, who recorded the Sierra Sounds. If you go to YouTube and search the Sierra Sounds, you will find dozens of videos of what they now believe is a Bigfoot type language. Some of it was referred to as the samurai chatter, and then some of it were just clearly grunts and groans. But that footage, the recordings they made in the Sierras, these were recorded back in the 1970s. They sent them to a Navy cryptolinguist to analyze, and the Navy determined that it was a language of some sort. It wasn't a human language. And when they looked at it on an oscilloscope, it had segments that were above the human vocal capacity, dipping into infrasound. And so many Bigfoot encounters from people who talk about what they call being buzzed. They said they'll hear a roar and they will feel it in their chest, and that's definitely infrasound. That's the same thing that people say about tigers. If a tiger roars at them, they'll feel it in their chest. Or when an elephant trumpets, people say they can literally feel it hit them, the wave of sound. That's because a lot of it's beyond our ability to hear. Thank you, Roger. Yeah, it was. I'm deeply grateful that MK agreed to come on the show. It was a fantastic show tonight.
BA, something else besides infrasound and mind speak in the research I've done on dogmen and on the Sasquatch, there's also something people like to refer to as loss of time.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like they were hit with some sort of infrasound that froze them in time. And, you know, I mean, one guy in particular, and I got to interview him, he said he lost 3 hours.
I think that's probably just the effect of the infrasound on the brain. It probably just it's already been shown that electronic equipment can be fritzed out until you leave the area. The human brain is just a big computer. It runs off electrical impulses. If you've got something in the air that can disrupt electrical impulses, it can disrupt your brain.
I've been working on something to counter that, to put into my helmet, my bump helmet. And it can, you know, it's similar to a Faraday cage, aluminum and copper together, and in like a screen type of a configuration.
Let me know if it works
around there. And I have a gentleman up in the Adirondacks that wants to try it out because he's lost bits of time. I mean, right at his own house, he lost about a half an hour of time, and he had people around him within 10 feet of him, actually, in the backyard at nighttime, and they said, "What happened to you? You just were standing there still for the longest amount of time," until they went up to him and touched him, and he lost time, and it's happened a couple of times to him.
There's been a number of people that have reported similar things to that they had been, quote unquote, stunned by a burst of infrasound. And that may be what it is. It just basically froze you in your tracks.
Yeah. I mean, some people say, oh, like you just said, froze me in my tracks and I was so scared. Well, you don't lose a half an hour of time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did a lot of interviews in my research about the lights being overhead, you know, when people had encounters. And a lot of people were telling me they were losing anywhere from 25 to like 40 minutes of time where they felt like, you know, but this one gentleman in particular lost 3 hours, and he wound up out of the forest area and on the side of a highway, and somebody actually stopped to see if he was okay. It was just amazing that he lost 3 hours of time.
I read one account from a guy, and I believe I want to say it was in eastern Kentucky. I don't remember exactly where, but he said he was out hiking a trail and he was taking wildlife photos, and he felt like he'd just been buzzed, and he froze there. And when he came around, he said it'd probably been 5-10 minutes. He wasn't sure exactly how much time had passed, but right next to him on the trail was a series of large bipedal big footprints, about 17 inches long. And they weren't there when he was walking, when he was before. So he thinks that, you know, according to the report, that he might have been buzzed and didn't see it walk by him.
Bigfoot's messing with him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Hi, Larry. Just got home. Hopefully you can watch the entire episode. I think you'll be impressed. As a matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to Larry Phelps as well for giving us another like.
Thank you, Larry.
I didn't salute each and every one of them. I do so now. I wish I would have had the other cup. I was so desperate to use this one tonight.
Todd says, I was 2 feet away from a lion in the zoo when he let out a full roar, and yes, it seemed like my whole body was vibrating. I only froze in awe for about 5 seconds, and I was gone. That infrasound is definitely a predator's way of letting you know either go away or you're going to be eaten.
Yeah.
Tigers have been known to use that to stun their prey before they attack. They'd let out a burst of that infrasound, and like goats and things would freeze and bang.
There was a program I was watching a month and a half ago on television. I think it was Discovery Channel, and this guy was investigating infrasound, and he went to an area where they had tigers in captivity, where I guess they held them there, and in the United States, and I might as well call him zookeeper, who had this gentleman go with him.
Mm-hmm.
Said, okay, you just step over there into his space and see what he does. And this giant tiger let out a roar. And the guy said, I mean, he said, I almost peed myself.
We could pull our own research on that.
What's that?
We could do our own research on that and document it ourselves. There's a accredited tiger sanctuary about 20 miles from here.
I actually have a tiger sanctuary up in New Jersey that I can go to also.
There's also a wolf sanctuary not too far from here, a few hours away.
I was at a zoo in Philadelphia one time, and they had George the tiger there.
Mm-hmm.
950 pounds.
That's a big tiger.
No, it was. He was an abnormally large tiger. And I mean, the paws on this guy was literally this big.
Have you ever seen a liger?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly which way it goes. I think it's if you breed a male tiger to a female lion, it's huge. But if you breed a male lion to a female tiger, it's tiny. I don't, it's one way or the other. But you know, when you get one of the large breed liger, they are massive.
Yeah, the liger is the female lion and the male tiger, and I've seen them. Those things, they're unbelievable. I mean,
let me see if I can find a picture of one, and I will throw that.
Or have a picture of them with the guy that's walking next to them. There's a fellow that has them in his. I don't want to call it a zoo area. I guess they have a sanctuary. And they're pretty nice too. You know, those ligers. I guess they grew them up since they were little tiny cubs.
I just found a really good image. I think this will probably shed some pretty good light on that.
Look at a baby one with it.
That is a big kitty.
Look at the head on that thing. Woo!
She could ride that. He-Man and his battle cat right there.
That is huge.
And that's just, you know, a natural occurrence. That's people, you know, who have bred lions to tigers. What could have existed out there in the wild that we had no idea about? In the wild, they've discovered hybrids between far-ranging grizzly bears and polar bears that have come farther south than normal.
Yeah.
And they've got the traits of both. They're massively broad, like a grizzly bear, but they've got the height of a polar bear. These things are monsters.
Unbelievable.
There was one hunter in Alaska shot one because he thought it was a grizzly, and when he saw some of the fur was white, he thought, "Oh crap! I've just shot a polar bear. I'm going to prison." So he calls Game and Fish. He's like, "Hey, I think I just accidentally shot a polar bear," and they came out and looked at it like, "No, that's not a polar bear." So they did DNA tests on it. And it was a crossbreed between a polar bear and a grizzly. He said it's rare, but it does happen, and it was a big son of a gun.
So my observation to people out there is this: if things like a liger can exist and that half grizz, half polar bear can exist with the interbreeding, who's to say that Sasquatch can't be out there? Who's to say that Dogman can't be out there? I mean, when I went over over the border from Texas over into Mexico years ago, and I met up with this rancher who had what he said he killed a chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
This thing looked like to me to be part coyote, part wolf.
With the mange, with no hair.
Yeah, and the skin was actually blue, but across the ridgeline, from the top of the head all the way down the ridgeline, was a little tuft of hair. I measured it. It was 42 inches from the nose to the back of the butt, and it was bluish skin, and it had a skin disease. It was obvious it had a skin disease. But who's to say a male coyote didn't hook up with a female wolf?
Or
And,
male wolf to female coyote.
Yeah, or one way or another.
Yeah,
And that's what happened.
somehow they met on, they had a wild hookup night. One of them got a little too drunk and slummed it with the other.
That's it. I mean, who the heck knows? I mean, so, and then the other thing I tell people is, they say, I don't believe in Sasquatch. I don't believe in Mothman. I don't believe in Dogman. Okay, well, do you believe in atoms? Do you believe in neurons, electrons? Do you believe in the string theory? Because the string theory has been proven, and you can't ever see it, And yet
you believe in oxygen. You're breathing it, but you can't see it.
Exactly. You can't see it, can't feel it, but you get old enough, you might need to use it so they can stick it in a tube. And
when I watch other podcasts, and then sometimes in the comment sections on some of the Dogman pages that I frequent, I see a lot of people that have the belief that Dogman was a military creation, or the military uses them.
I did an article on that.
I don't think that's the case, because the Dogman type sightings in LBL dated back to the early 1800s when that area was first settled.
Yeah, you had the people the lumberjacks out there that discovered it first.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, I did an article in conjunction with Jody Cook about that, and the conclusion really is this: a Dogman would not want to be controlled, and it would think 24/7 how to escape its control. If you had some kind of a shock collar on it that would control it 24/7, how to get away from you, how to destroy you. No way in hell would they be doing our bidding, and there's no way I ever believe that the government has Dogmen, in its employ. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. We have a large world here, and somebody would have got it on camera. They're doing our bidding or something, and they would have put it out there. Everything you do these days is on camera, so forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it just wouldn't happen. And like I said, it wouldn't want to be controlled.
Right. And
not a Dogman.
Eventually, it would find a way to slip that control. Like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park checking the fence systematically. It's gonna find a way out. Luis Noriega says, I don't remember a book I read a long time ago, but there were werewolves working for the American army to defeat the Germans. It's a cool premise for a book. The Germans actually had a group they called the werewolves.
I was going to say it's the other way around, BA.
Yeah, the Germans had a group that they called the werewolves, and I don't know if there's any truth to them being able to change or anything like that, but that's what they called them.
The Germans were looking into every which way they could fight us.
Oh, yeah.
And they were looking into the occult. They were looking into the, just like
They tried to find the staff of Longinus.
Yeah, they were trying to find anything they could use to fight us, and thank God they didn't.
Todd Hunter says, we are so arrogant as a people that we assume we know everything there is to know, but yet there are so many mysteries still left to discover if we only let go of our skepticism. You're absolutely right. I mean, we don't need to look to the ocean to prove that. We know less about the bottom of the ocean than we do about the surface of the moon. I mean, there are huge sections of the ocean that are outside the normal trade routes where boat or shipping goes, that if your boat got lost out there, they'd never find you.
Yeah. Mariana Trench, I mean, it's so deep that we can't even get down there. And look at some of the vitamins we take, a thing called krill oil. That's all the way down there at the bottom over there. And at least we can get that far to get it. But, that's really super far down. The Mariana Trench is so far down that any vehicle we send down there will, even unmanned, will get crushed. So it's possible that there are things down there still alive. I mean, we know maybe, I don't even want to say 1/10. We know 1/1000 of 1% of what we can possibly find out about the ocean. It
was within our lifetimes that the giant squid was considered a cryptid, a myth.
Yeah, the Kraken.
Yeah, the Kraken was just a myth. Yet we're finding them.
Well, they got one squid that they have that's 40 feet, and then they found the super giant squid. That thing's more like 58 feet.
That's a big monster.
Yeah, measure 58 feet lengthwise, and then when it spreads out, I mean, that's a big sucker.
There was this Japanese researcher that within the last 10 years did that. He was out there, between Midway and Japan, and he was looking and hoping to get lucky. And I forget the actual depth, but if I remember correctly, it was between 150 and 300. And he got the images, and it is immense what is down there. And it's exactly what you guys are talking about, the sizes. And people would say, no, it's not true. They're not that big. And yet he was able to get images. I don't know if it was once or twice, but there are multiple images. And being that it's underwater, it was just unreal because they were able to determine the size of it due to the length, or I'm sorry, maybe not necessarily the length, but the dimension or the thickness of the tentacle. It's just like we can tell how big we are, or you get the impression of our fingers. We can tell how big we could be. But when you look at the size of a paw of a tiger, it's just, we get the impression it's much bigger. And I'm sure they can do the exact same thing when it came to that squid or whatever it was.
Well, like the Russians, they use calculations to determine things. Mm-hmm. And yes, there is a way to determine that without actually having to compare it against anything else.
Yeah,
you're right. But the super giant kraken, oh my God, that thing is unbelievable. There's folklore. Once again, we learned from folklore. They said in the old days the kraken was as large as an island. Some of them, and when the sailors would land, well, the kraken would say, "Okay, dinner time." Eat them up.
Ding, 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 ding.
I can't imagine something that large. My gosh.
Well, what is one of the more famous ones that was just found within the last 30, 40 years, and it was believed to be a prehistoric animal? It's the coelacanth, isn't it?
They found the coelacanth in I want to say in the 1930s or 40s.
Yeah. A lady who was a museum curator, she set out and told all the different fishermen and everything, if you find anything odd, bring it to me. And they brought it to her, and
they'd found fossil records of it, and they thought it died out during the time of the dinosaurs. And
right.
They found this. I think I want to say it was
10,000 years.
Either Madagascar or Papua New Guinea, someplace like that. They found this tribe that'd been eating them forever. Like, oh yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, we know. It turns out this woman paid the guy at the fish market $2.30 American for it, and she found the discovery of a lifetime. It was amazing.
And cryptozoologists everywhere were like,
let me find that tribe. I'll give you $2.30. I'll give you $2.50. Bro. Oh.
$2 really does make you holler. I'm sorry, I had to.
Oh, well.
I don't think we're going to get nailed on that one or demonetized.
No. Robert says the Meg. There are a lot of scientists, especially the guys at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, who postulate the possible existence of the Meg, that it's still there. A lot of shark experts. Well, the same thing with the giant squid. By observing whales, some of these deep diving whales, they have found whales that come up with sucker marks on them.
Starred.
Yeah, they've got stars on them from suckers from a squid that are wider than your shoulders, and then and still others that have part of their fluke missing or a chunk out of their side, where something really big bit a hunk out of them.
But I've been up to the Woods Hole Institute there, and that's
they can't taste as good as a manatee. Oh, the huge manatees!
Oh, that's not nice.
Little mayonnaise.
I actually believe that there is such a thing as the Meg.
I do too.
I've gotten some of the brochures and paperwork from the Woods Hole Institute, because back when I wanted to become an oceanographer, that's where I wanted to go, and they've got so much on it. And if this thing does exist, it's like 3 times the size of the biggest whale you've ever seen. Yeah, 3 times the size of a blue whale. They
were the show I watched on them about the Meg. They estimated between 60 and 80 feet long. Weighing like 40 tons.
And that seems to be like the baby too, because
Yeah, they get big.
Some of the information I've read says that they're even bigger.
Have you heard of the fossils, skeletons, everything they're finding in the Sahara? It is absolutely amazing. The size of whales, the size of sharks, the Meg. Oh yeah, it existed before, and in the Sahara, which was prehistoric seafloor, millions of years ago, the things just settled at the bottom, and they're finding them in the Sahara.
This is the jawbone of a megalodon.
Yeah, it wouldn't even taste you.
Yeah,
it would just. You would be like krill growing through.
You might shoot out through a gill slit.
If you're lucky, yeah.
If you were really lucky.
My name is Jonah. Jonah in the Meg. Nah. It sort of makes me wonder sometimes because I've been out there in the ocean. I've had a scuba license since I was like 16. My uncle owned a scuba shop down the Jersey Shore. And there's not too much that really scares me. But I got to admit, one time in my life, I got the pee scared out of me. I was with 6 other guys. 2 were top men inside the boat, and 4 of us we were paired off 2 and 2. We were in the water just off the Jersey Shore, past the continental shelf, and we felt vibrations coming at us. So we motioned to each other, go up. We hit the top, pop down our goggles, and we're looking around, and sure as shit, what's headed right towards us? A tanker, an oil tanker. The big ones, not the small ones that take the oil off. The friggin' screws on these things are about, my God, they're about 35, 40 feet wide, circumference, and there's 6 of them. I mean, that sucker could have made us into little fish chum.
Krill.
So
this will scare you.
Yeah. I don't think I want to meet up with the megalodon, the big mama. Holy crow.
That's a big fish.
I'm not sure if you guys were here, and the audience that we have, I mentioned that due to these little helicopter thingies, these little drones that are now going off the coast, we are discovering that the sharks are much closer than we've ever believed that they were. They're just hanging out in the periphery. And it's amazing because the drones can see right down, and they're picking up images of not 1, 2, 3, but hundreds of sharks just cruising. It's amazing.
It brings a whole new meaning to spring break in Daytona, Florida. I'm telling you.
No kidding.
You go out in the ocean, and it's like bite.
Yeah.
Here we go. I got one of those videos for you, Raj. This is drone footage.
Oh, I thought it was going to be La Llorona.
No. This is a drone filming sharks right off the beach.
Oh, God. Look at that. That was right off the beach. Oh, Lord. Where is this?
Off of Florida.
Well, I believe one of the no-go zones is off Cape Town, right, in South Africa. It's like Shark Alley or whatever it's called.
Yeah, there's huge populations of great whites there.
You know what that means? You go to Florida.
Look at that, guys.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
You go in 3 feet into the ocean, and that's about as far as you go.
Mm-hmm.
They're everywhere.
I heard someone say one time, you put your toe in the ocean and you just knocked yourself off the top of the food chain. Because killer whales have come up on the beach and dragged seals back in the water. So
I was thinking of that earlier. Yes.
If you're at the edge of the water, you're fair game.
Hey, wait a minute! Is that a guy on a surfboard on the lower area?
Yeah, a couple guys in paddleboards.
Yes, they are, and look at how close they are. That's what I was talking about. Excellent, thank you.
Screw that.
That these
surfers
had no idea how close they were.
Guys out there on their surfboards have no idea how many sharks are just right there around them.
That guy's sitting on a surfboard with his little feet in the water. Shark come up, nibble on a foot,
Take a foot and go on his merry way.
Are they freaking nuts? Where the hell's Baywatch? Tell them.
Well, the thing is that we didn't know.
Apparently, this is not new behavior. It's just we're just now noticing it because of drones.
Yeah. And remember, the further out you get, the darker the water is.
Mm-hmm.
They can't see. I mean, maybe out there in the Caribbean where it's the clear water, but it's crazy. Remember,
look how close that one is to this guy, and then to the shore.
One of the most terrifying stories I ever heard about the ocean is a buddy of mine. He's a certified diver. He was telling me that he was diving off of an island in the Pacific. And this is not even a shark story. It just freaked me out. I mean, it made my heart skip a beat. He said he wasn't very far offshore, and he swam into some kelp, and he was like pushing it out of his way. And he passed, as he was coming out the other side, he says only about 10 feet thick. He's kind of had to push his way through it. The kelp fronds kind of floating around. Said when he parted the kelp fronds and looked on the other side, the ground just dropped away to nothing. He said he was staring literally into the abyss. He said, I never felt more insignificant in my life. God knows how deep that was. He said, out in the Pacific, he said it could have been miles deep. He said, and the weird part was, I felt like it was pulling me out there.
That is something. Wow.
Yeah.
Oop.
My brother commented that they asked people not to go swimming by the Santa Barbara Islands because of the high seals population. They might mistake you for one. Santa Barbara Islands are just off the coast of Santa Barbara. They're, 30, 40 miles off the coast. You can see them. You can't swim there. But it's, there's a sanctuary on one of them. There's a military base on another. Actually, I believe most of them are sanctuaries. Catalina Island is a famous one. That's one of the furthest south. You can go there, and it's cool. And they have a very famous airport on the other side, where it's a cliff, where once you get to the end, it goes down.
Yeah, that's what scares me is not knowing the bottom beneath. And, my buddy Clint Bruce, former Navy SEAL. Him and I were talking one time, and he said the most scared he was ever in his life is him. He was leading a team. They departed from a submarine hatch, and they were swimming in open ocean, heading for their destinations. I can't tell you where. He said it was fairly well lit because the water was clear, but they were deep enough where they couldn't be seen from the surface. He said they were just swimming along, heading for the destination. He says, and I just happened to look down, and just at the edge of our vision, something way bigger than our formations right beneath us. Yeah. He said, I have never been more terrified in my life.
It was probably lucky.
I said, what'd you do? He said, I kept my eyes forward and just kept swimming, hoping it didn't take any notice.
Hope it doesn't bite.
Well, I was going to say, maybe whales kind of like to screw with us from time to time. Nick, is everything okay? Did you get a call or something?
Yeah, I got to get, guys. Have to say goodnight.
Nick, thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me. That was an education.
Well, we've got next week on Tuesday night, we've got Ron Moorhead from the Sierra Sounds. If you want to come back and join that,
be on with you, definitely.
And I will let you know. Yeah, we got tomorrow too.
Well, tomorrow you guys got
Sarah Gilbert.
Sarah Gilbert will be joining us.
Paranormal Roundtable.
You'll be on Paranormal. I've got to listen to that after our show.
Yeah, you're not going to see any arguments or anything silly. I will handle myself with proper decorum.
Well, I will definitely be listening to that.
I just have some questions for the gentleman, and we'll leave it at that. I don't want to mess things up.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that, but
you're a good man, Nick.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Nick. I mean, there are things that kind of twitched my antenna, so to speak, that I felt were not quite right. But I'm not going to call anybody a liar. I'm just some things just didn't seem right to me.
I mean, I have some questions, and I have the proper way of asking them. I'm not going to be confrontational or anything like that. And anybody that knows me,
I don't know what that means.
Everybody knows me, knows I don't curse. So
yeah. I sent you my list of questions that I had that came to mind. So
I
know we're on the same page.
I have a bunch over here ready to go. So that's what I'll be asking them tomorrow in a nice way.
Okay.
But gentlemen, really, thanks for having me on. It was great, and it was an education.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome anytime, man. Like Roger was saying, you're not just a guest; you're part of the family now. So you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, tough shit. You're in the family.
Hey, wait a minute. One more thing before I go, Roger. We got to have a three-way. The three of us here for the getting the conference hall and everything ready for 2022. That is a must. That is a must. And I've investigated those little bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And DA, you're going to have to get me there's the sampling that I can put into the bottles.
No,
I'll have everything printed up and we can sell it there.
heck yeah.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you.
All right, Nick. Have a great night. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir. Good morning.
Whew.
It's an incredible amount of activity. We still have quite a few people watching us.
Oh, yeah.
DA.
Yeah.
Across the channels. We want to thank everyone. Ozarks Haunted Pathways, NDB Media, The Nightmare Hunter, DA Roberts, NDB Media on Twitch. Quite a few people are watching us. If you are watching and you want to leave a comment, let us know who you are and where you hail from. It makes us feel special. So it's all good in the hood, so they say, but we still have quite a few people, and we are eternally grateful. Well done. Yeah, it was quite a bit going on tonight. Mr. Miller, I am looking so forward. Oh, by the way, that was funny. Yes, either fly or fall in Catalina. Yes, and Robert, thank you for being out there in Texas. I can't wait because now you are the most recent one in the family to have a story to tell. So I look forward. And Robert, hopefully you'll be back in time. You do have the invite to May 24th to be with us. What do the little bottles? Yeah, what's up with the little bottles?
He was talking about making Steve St. Louis drawing Dogman.
That's funny. Yes, we were messing around the other day about maybe selling that at the convention.
It would be just for a gag. I mean, we're not legitimately trying to sell Dogman scent lure, but it would just be something funny and associated with the show. Speaking of associated with the show,
here we go.
I got my T-shirt order in. They're supposed to be here by my birthday. So I'll have a DAX Machina shirt. I'll have a Codename Wild Hunt shirt and a Steve's Pub and Grub shirt. So I'll be
Steve's Doe Scent. Oh my goodness.
Steve's Dogman scent.
Well, could be that. Folks, we are going to be celebrating DA's birthday on the Veterans Day. We're going to be respectful, but we will be on Veterans Day in the evening, May 31st, and we're going to celebrate DA's birthday when it turns midnight for him. So
Sweet.
We're going to be live on that day just to celebrate this little man's birthday over here. So looking forward to that. But we do have, again, a guest for tomorrow.
I had to put that up.
I did make a joke about my little car, yes. And it is funny. Robert hits me with the Versa, which is absolutely funny. Matt gets me with the Siesta Hunter. And there were a few others as well. I mean, Matt took a hellish shot at me last time. But
Yeah.
For those of you that know and don't know, we have the option to chat privately, all the guests and all the hosts. And when Big Slappy or whatever his name was, I mean, come on, Slap Happy, give me a break. And the way he had that mic, it was a phallic symbol. But I commented about it being white or whatever. And there were several comments in the chat room, which was kind of funny. And Matt didn't say a word until he says, okay, guys, I'm sorry. I'm falling asleep. So I'm going to have to go. But unlike Roger, who falls asleep on air, I will leave. Hey, what the hell? I felt like the Wolf of Wall Street when Donnie's like, hey, why are you coming at me that way? Why are you coming at me?
Come at me, bro.
Oh, my goodness. It was just rather funny. I did feel like the Wolf of Wall Street. And it's amusing, folks. I mean, don't get me wrong. I find it funny. that each and every one of us has something on others. It's funny. It is a family, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely.
And my brother, to get under my skin, always
puts the D in Roger.
Like, where the hell did that come from? But whatever. Oh, my goodness. And he knows it already. I've been on him for it, and he still does it. So,
of course. It's what our brother's for, man.
I guess he found out that it got under my skin. I admitted it.
So now he won't quit doing it.
And I continue. I won't let it go. So it is what it is. But all right. What an excellent program, DA. You and Nick did real well. It's really cool. It was really fun to be a part of it. What else do you want to talk about tonight?
I'm completely up for grabs. Whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, I was acknowledging. Yeah, dude, I'm done too. But no, you're still ready to go. I do have to get to work early because I am going to be on 24-hour duty starting Thursday morning.
Oh, that does sound like a lot of fun.
I'm going to be on 24 hours all the way through to midnight on May 17th. So
you probably won't be able to join us for DAX Machina on Saturday.
There's a good chance I will, but my daughter, I'm sorry. Ooh, that was a Freudian slip. Hey, Larry. Thank you, Larry. Good night or good morning. Depends on where you are. I don't know. Each day is filling up the day before. So there's a good chance I can join. I might join you late at night and pull off the siesta. Okay. The siesta hunter may make an appearance.
Yeah, Sean, our guest is going to be Sean Chesser, who writes zombie apocalypse books with a military twist. They're actually
like you.
Yeah, well, no, I do the cryptids with the military, but Sean's books are very well researched and he knows his craft. In fact, they would be a very good fit for anybody that likes my Codename Wild Hunt books. Sean's a great writer, an awesome guy, and you definitely need to check out Sean's book, SeanChesser.com, or find him on Amazon. But he'll be joining us in the studio on Saturday night for DAX Machina. And tomorrow night we have, who do we have, Raj?
Oh, wait, tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
Yes, we have Sarah Gilbert. She is an accomplished author as well in the field, in the culinary field.
I like
yeah, she's actually done quite a few things. She's been on Paula Dean's website, and she's done quite a few things at a rather young age. She has the love, and she has the culinary skills. And we will talk about that tomorrow, but she's actually going to tell us about her experiences, right, DA?
Mm-hmm. She has a number of paranormal experiences she's going to come on and share with us, and I think it's going to be a good show. Also, a reminder, on Friday night we have the Zombie Authors Roundtable. It's going to be me, and well, the list keeps growing, so we'll be rotating authors in and out.
Will you tell us why you're doing that? What happened, DA?
Because
please.
I was selected as the zombie book of the month. My book, Ragnarok Rising Awakening. Yeah, it was selected as zombie book of the month on by the Facebook group. And it's a huge honor. I definitely don't want to understate that, but I'm generally not one to talk about awards and stuff for me. But I'm very proud to have received it. And this is going to be for that. I'm going to have authors featuring Jamie Hernandez, Alan Gamboa, Stephen Kinney, Sylvester Barzy, T.L. James Glenn, Bethany Stutzman Hargart, Mike Evans, Tim Cavier, Scott Baker, and Stephen Landry. At this point, there probably will be more. And this is going to be the time we fill all 10 spots on this for the first time. And I'm hoping Roger will be able to join us on Friday night, because I will certainly need the help wrangling that large of a crew.
Yeah, I will see. Good night, Lewis. Thank you for spending time with us again. We're going to be on tomorrow. Just remember, folks, we're going to be on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Same channel.
Same bat time. Same bat time.
This is how it's so... Okay, I just heard some dogs barking. And you always know which ones are the ones that are barking too after a while. You know how many houses down. And it reminds me, it tells me the story, or reminds me of the story, I believe it was a 1971 earthquake in Sylmar. I was under 2 years old when it happened, but my mother, my father at the time recently passed, of course. And, well, not recently, it's 2019. But anyway, when the earthquake struck, you could hear the dogs in the neighborhood barking in succession as it was getting closer. So you could actually tell the direction of the earthquake. It was coming from over there because the dogs were barking. My father told this story that when the earthquake hit in the early morning hours, that he was trying to get out of bed, and he was trying to put his pants on, and he couldn't because of the violent shaking. He said he tried to put his pants on and he'd miss because it was so violent.
That's wild.
Folks, yeah, it's a great story. But the one, folks, if you really want to know a little bit about Sylmar, you've got to look up Sylmar earthquake fire station tire marks. Folks, you know fire trucks, okay? Mm-hmm. You've seen them. You know how heavy those little rats are. And the hair's already standing in the back of my neck. I know we're way off topic, and I apologize, but this is the amazing force of earthquakes and stuff. They have pictures, and they're probably at the USGS.gov website. But anyway, when you look it up, you can see that over in Sylmar, San Fernando, when it struck, it was so violent that the tire marks from the fire truck as it was bouncing and would bounce off the wall, they were 2 to 3 feet off the ground.
Ooh.
Folks, obviously not 3 feet, but 2 feet. Think about the violent shaking to get that multi-ton truck to even bend and flex in such a way that the tire marks were 2 feet in the air.
Wow. That's power. Earthquakes are phenomenally powerful things. I mean, when the New Madrid went off, the Mississippi River rolled backwards. That's power.
As a matter of fact, since I do programs like that, I am thinking of revisiting that one. I'm going to do that one sometime later this year. I'm going to be doing a special on the New Madrid because, as you know, I do have a tiny geology background, and not only geology, but tectonics. I've studied my entire life. I'm going to do something on that. And who knows, maybe DA will join me for that one as well.
Sure. And I'm just a layman, but I'll lend what knowledge I do have.
I did live for, I did live for a short while. Yes. Roger, remember when you lived on Warner with me? We had a pool and probably we had, the Landers earthquake. We had 3-foot waves hit apartment across from me. Yes. The Landers earthquake was in 1995. If I'm not mistaken, the offset was between 13 and 18 feet. And what do I mean? There's this road that led to Landers, and you can see the crack in the ground. The road was offset by 13 to 18 feet.
Wow.
That's the entire roadway. It was unbelievable. And Landers was, if I'm not mistaken, in 1995. There was quite a bit of activity, and it was because Northridge was 94, Landers was 95, and the Hector Minequake was around that time too. These were 7.0. Powerful. Low rider fire engines. That's funny, Larry. Oh, and that'll even really warp your sense of how it was bouncing. Planet shifting power, yes. But the Landers quake hit in 1995. My brother was still down in Orange County. I was in Montebello when it struck, and my sister, my older sister, was with us at the time, and it was a 7.something, 7.1 or 7.5, I forget. And Landers, which is somewhere out by 29 Palms, was devastated. Yeah, it was a desert town, just absolutely devastated, and it was crazy. Well, the last big earthquake we had, I believe, was on July 4th, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it shook us up for a while. Yeah, that one was out 184 miles away, and it still shook this place real good. You guys get hyper because you guys got earthquakes in the 1 to 2 to 3 range. Do you know what that is for us? A punchline. If it's in the 4 range, people are like, "Hey, did you feel it? Hey, where were you?" When it's 5, they're like, "Oh, that was a little exciting." When it gets to 6, we start to get serious. And when it's 7, yeah, holy crap. I had heard and I'd studied as to why Southern California structures are made out of wood. And that's so that the structure can bend and flex during an earthquake. And I had heard about the way it bends and flexes, and I've seen the simulations and stuff. And I remember being up in the middle of the night during earthquakes, and I said, one of these days I'm going to pay attention. And folks, I don't remember which one it was, but I was in my room, and even in the middle of the night, it's amazing how clear you can get images and how you can crystallize and see in the dark. I looked up to the corner of my room, and the best way I can describe it is, this is the corner of the room. Here's the ceiling corner. I saw the wall bend behind the corner, if you can imagine that. And I'm looking at him saying, that's not right. It's not supposed to be that way. But it did. It bent behind it. It was bending and flexing. And to this day, I'll never forget seeing that and saying, no, not right. Till you see structures bend and flex in earthquakes, you haven't seen anything. But anyway, sorry, I was way off topic. I'm sorry, DA.
Oh, you're fine, dude. Yeah, talk all you want.
It's all good. I'm excited. We've got a lot of stuff going on now. My brother's really coming back with some stuff. Yes, and my brother was a CS tech, so he was a purchasing tech for a while. He was also in environmental services. My brother's done quite a bit of stuff as well. Working in a hospital in Orange County, I got to see several earthquakes. While I could see the hallway, go left and right. The first quake was going north and south, and it was going up and down. Yeah, and it's going in one direction, and you got to skirt down the hallway. I can only imagine what that was like. I worked at the same hospital my brother did for a short while. I was an admitting rep. Good job. The job was not good for me. I was a money collector, and I disliked that. Ugh. You got a patient coming in, you got to look up in the book, and these were massive books that had the frequent flyers. And you got the people coming in and say, "Oh, hey, you owe us $30,000. How much are you going to pay?" Oh, man, it's not me. And they disliked me in the admitting department because I was the only one that wouldn't collect money. And they would score like a 30% bonus of whatever they collected. So they wanted the money. And I was like, "Hey, no, don't count me in. I don't want to play." But the way they saw it was, well, we want someone that is hungry. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was not nice. But anyway, good job. They do well. I had to translate the emergency room, and I was done. I was like, no, it's no fun having to translate and tell parents, you effed up. Yeah, I had to do that on one of them, and it was horrible. I had to tell the doctor and the nurse wanted, they were having me translate, and they asked the parents, "Why didn't you wait for the ambulance?" They said, "Well, it was already taking so long," so they drove to the hospital. It took much longer. By the time they got to the hospital, the emergency room could not save the child.
Oh, that's horrible.
So they made me tell them, because of you, your child is dead. And I looked at I can't tell them that. It's like, you tell them that. I put my badge down and I walked home and I left. They called me back. I got to admit it. They called me back. They gave me an entire day. They said, "Are you going to come back to the job?" I was like, holy crap. Yeah, okay. They let me go. They realized what they did, and I was fortunate. They gave me an entire day. They paid me the whole day, and they gave me a full day off. And they said, "Are you coming back?" Okay, yeah, I'll come back. I still wasn't there very long though. First job I got was the county, and I've been there almost 30 years now.
And the rest is history.
It was a difficult job. It wasn't for me.
And that's the way it was.
Yes. And we are getting near the end. I guess you learned a little bit from me. I may still. Oh my God. Do I? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. I may have my badge.
Ruh-oh, Raggy.
Ruh-roh. Do I have the badge? I think I may have my badge from the hospital.
You think it's still active?
No, but I look like a 21-year-old, and I kept the badge because it would allow me to get through security. I was a first responder. I could get through the police lines. I have it somewhere. I have to find it. So, but anyway, all right. Sorry. My brother says, yeah, he had to translate as well. My brother did a lot at that hospital, at all the hospitals he was at, and I get it. But yeah, I'm going on. I'm going to start losing the audience, and I don't want to do that. We've done very well today. I don't want to blow that.
It's been an incredible show.
Yes, it has. And I'm ruining it by going on and on at the end. Yay, anything else?
That's our wind down. We've already reminded everybody of the coming shows. Next week, we have Ron Moorhead on Tuesday. The Nightmare Hunter will be coming to you on Tuesday instead of Monday because Raj has other commitments he has to take care of on the 17th. It's the final day of tax season, so he is going to be as busy as a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest.
It's the culmination of 2 years, folks. Last year never ended.
Mm-hmm.
It's just bled into this year, and I mean that, bled into it.
But our guest that night will be Ron Moorhead. We'll be talking about the Sierra Sounds and listening to some of those. And we have a action-packed week the rest of this week. Tune in and check it out. Not counting, sports talk with the guys and the guys over at
All Tower Video.
At All Tower. It's a full week. There's several more programs coming this week. So watch NDB Media, folks. We've got stuff that'll keep you occupied, and the network continues to grow.
And if I may humbly offer, remember Blog Talk. I'm putting it in the blogtalkradio.com/NDB Media. Tuesday night, Fandom Access. Wednesday night, Travel Talk Radio. The Rock and Roll Shrink on Thursday night, Travel Itch Radio. On Sunday night, Casey Shapiro's The Walking Dead. Folks, on the NDB Media Network, there's a lot of stuff going on. And possibly Kat Dahlman may be coming over to NDB Media as well.
Probably this fall.
Yeah. Well, just saying.
Walking Dead. It's better than The Walking Dead.
Uh-huh.
Monsters. I hate them. Zombies.
That's pretty good, Lewis. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll have him on one of these days. But I do want to wish my sister. Oh, yeah. I do want to wish Rose, her birthday was on Saturday. My other sister, Alma, her birthday is tomorrow. So, Alma, happy birthday. Lewis's birthday passed on the 24th of April. Of course, on the 21st.
Happy late birthday.
So, my brother and I are separated by 3 days. My sisters are separated by 4 days. And the boys are in April, the girls are in May. So, that's the Noriega family right there.
Not the same year, though, right?
America! Live long and prosper. Yes, Josh. Peace and long life. We are out of here, folks.
Good night, everybody.
Peace!